Big news. I have some important news for you.
Interesting news.
It's Blake and Aaron's Spilling the Tea with Sandy.
K-Man's top news headlines of the day from CMR.
Happy Monday, Sandy.
Hey, Blake and Aaron. Happy Monday. How was your weekend?
All right. Yeah. What do you got for us this morning? Let's get to it.
All right. So a little bit of BRAC news this morning. Not the best news in the world, but on Friday morning, a young man was found unresponsive, after having returned from Grand Cayman just the day before. And it looks like it's another suspected case of an overdose in Cayman BRAC.
Seriously?
So very, very unfortunate. Yes. This is, at least to my recollection, the third one and about...
Of what, though? From what?
Well, nobody's saying, and this is, I think the officials, we've questioned exactly what they think it is or if they have any indications, because, the streets are saying they believe people are getting stuff laced with fentanyl.
I was going to say, that's what I was thinking first.
Yes. And so we know that 2 people have died. But of course, cocaine can kill you too just on its own. So,
throw fentanyl in it, not know.
Yeah, you're definitely going to probably die. But yeah, so
we don't have the 60s or 70s anymore.
I was just going to say, the reality is that people that do it recreationally, you can't do it anymore. You can't.
You got to really open your eyes to see.
You get something with fentanyl and you're done.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely. And
I don't understand.
So we do have some questions. Yeah, we do have some questions that we've put out there for the authorities to hopefully get back to us about. So we'll see. Also in the BRAC, a young man was hit last night, teenager, by a vehicle off of Alfred Scott Drive in West End, Cayman BRAC. And this was a spectacular situation because cameras in the area caught the entire thing.
Good.
So it was very, very shocking.
Driver leave?
A little bit of confusion about that part of it. Some people said he did, some people said he didn't. But the incident, quite frankly, the young man ran into him. So, it wasn't his fault. He was just driving, and then all of a sudden comes a young kid on his bike and wham. It was shocking to see. So we will keep him in our thoughts and prayers. Looks like he's going to need some serious medical intervention. We understood late last night that they were probably going to have to air ambulance him off from Cayman BRAC, at least to Grand Cayman, for some better treatment options.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah. So there's a bit of excitement about royal members, the Earl and Countess of Wessex, arriving.
What time did they arrive today?
Today. They do arrive today.
Yeah, and this is Prince Charles's younger.
I don't know what time, but they're here for an official.
Who am I?
They're here for an official 3-day visit.
Mm-hmm.
So welcome.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's kind of cool to see the Royal Air Force planes, land and.
When do they arrive? Wait,
that's what I mean.
Today?
Yeah, I want to go.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what time, but yeah, we'll see if we can find out.
If anybody knows, let us know 943-1061. Because a lot of people like to go to the airport and wave them in, that sort of thing. It's kind of neat.
Yeah. That's cool.
All right. You guys have a fantastic day.
You too.
Thanks, Sandy. Appreciate it. Catch Sandy right now on Bobo 89.1 FM. We'll see you tomorrow for the Tuesday headlines, which will feel like a Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
All
right, folks. We're going to get ready here to switch over to Bobo. Beautiful morning. Happy Monday to all of you. Do 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 do.
Bigger, better, bolder.
The cold, hard truth is taking talk to the next level. Right here on Bobo 89.1 FM, Cayman's Community Radio.
We are still spilling the tea.
And committed to being part of the change that Cayman so desperately needs. Join Sandy Hill weekdays from 7:30 a.m. for Premier Access, Cayman Voices, Truthful Thursdays, and much more. Cayman's #1 talk show is now bigger, better, bolder, and more than talk. Getting results with hot topics, consumer reports, court exposés, and more.
I've come to set the record straight. I've come to shine the light on you. Let me introduce myself. I am the cold, hard truth.
Now, from the CMR studio in Grand Cayman,
Live, direct.
it's the cold, hard truth. Now, join the conversation on 345-936-2626.
That number again is
345-936-2626.
All right, folks. Good morning. Happy Monday. How are you guys doing? Just a quick reminder that we're still on our backup YouTube feed. I thought for some reason the other one had returned, but my apologies. It has not returned as yet. I don't know how long we're in YouTube jail, but we've got a backup option. Like and follow the secondary page so that you can still continue to receive the morning content. If you view it on YouTube, don't forget that we're also on, gotta turn on my light, honey chow. Don't forget that we're also on Facebook. And of course, you can catch Bobo on the radio in your vehicles, or there's an actual, just Google Bobo 89.1 FM, and you'll be able to get that link as well. I know that I don't have on lighting right now, but I kind of like myself without the first light. I have one light on. What do y'all think? It's a little bit dark though, but still. Not a bad look to be a little bit in the dark, but you know, we believe in shining the light and everything around here. So, ta-da! And you shall have light. Look at that. All right, folks. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I hope you guys had a fabulous weekend. Who's here with me? We've got Diamond Princess in the house. Good morning, Diamond Princess. Alejandro is here. Jennifer says, good morning, CMR fam. Good morning to you, darling. Irvelyn, so good to see you. I saw quite a few people over the weekend at the CoCo Fest. Now, I had some complaints about the CoCo Fest. People are saying, Miss Sandy, this is the slowest CoCo Fest we've ever had. And so they felt like it wasn't marketed very well. And that included vendors. So I don't know. Obviously, I would have only been there for a number of hours. I wasn't there all day long. But it's important, folks, that you, just because you've had an event, a million times, doesn't mean that you're going to continue to get the crowd. Every single event, you've always got people doing stuff. People are busy, competing events. Always promote your stuff if you actually want people to turn out. So there was a complaint also about some event that was at the port that I had never heard anything about. So ensure that that's done as well. So I don't know what's going on radio. Let me send this to Chuck. We got to figure out why this keeps doing this. I'm connected on my end, so I don't really know what's going on over there. So yes, it would be good to try to figure this kind of stuff out. Suspicious. Gary says that the radio ads have overpowered your voice. Okay. We shall get on it. All right. Let me see what's going on. Yeah, I don't really know why those are jumping on. Now, I do know if there's a certain amount of dead silence that, the radio will kick in automatically. But I think I've been talking this whole time. Have I not? So I don't know what's going on, honey chill. I don't know. But hopefully it'll get sorted out here in a second. I think there's some little glitch because I have had complaints the last couple of weeks that it's been doing it. So Chuck is there. He's like my little tech guy in the background pulling all the wires. Remember back in the day? Well, I don't remember this, but some of y'all might remember this. When we had telecom companies that in order to get a call, somebody was literally manually putting you through like a little hole so that people could hear you, right? And you could connect your call. And then you know what that meant? Everybody else on the line could hear your call as well. Good morning to Jim. How are you? Happy Monday. Daisy's in the house. Miss Sheila is also here. Elena, happy Monday to you. Ali, thank you so much for confirming. Chuck said that we should be good now. And a big shout out to the folks over at Burger King, who are our corporate sponsors this morning. Appreciate them coming on board. Whenever I put up their ad, I gotta come down. I gotta do squats in the morning. Oh yeah, there we go. This will get me in shape real quick if I do those throughout the entire morning show. My gosh, that would be something. So I'm going to talk about a very serious topic here in just a bit. But before I get to that, I do want to Monday Rewind, tell y'all a little bit about my weekend. And of course, you can tell me how your weekend was. What did you guys do? Good morning to Andrea. How are you, my dear? What were you guys up to over the weekend? Well, it is Monday. So happy Monday, first of all.
Time for Monday Rewind. The Cold Hard Truth's Monday Rewind show recaps the weekend's news and events so you don't miss a beat.
Don't miss out.
All the weekend's source, news, gossip, and well, it wouldn't be a weekend recap show without traffic accidents too. Cayman Marl Road is Cayman's #1 news source and has the island's hottest morning talk show.
It's the hottest.
Make sure you don't miss a beat with Monday Rewind.
Rewind.
Tune in every Monday from 7:30 a.m. on both YouTube and Facebook.
All right, good folks. Welcome back. So thank you guys again so much for tuning in to the program. I appreciate it. So one of the things that I did over the weekend was obviously I went to CoCo Fest on Saturday, so it was nice and I had a good time. It was not so fun. I always enjoy it. I always enjoy getting local food. It's always hard. It's really, really hard sometimes to decide which vendor to go with. And I feel like I go with the same people all the time. And sometimes I do want to try something a little bit different. So, yeah. But I went with the same person that I always go with. So I had lobster and conch, of course, with white rice and one little piece of plantain. Child, they'd be so stingy with the plantain. I'd be like, y'all don't have to be stingy with plantain. I don't normally eat bread kind, so I don't have to worry about cassava and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, yeah, you can keep that. A little bit of potato salad, fine. So I had some tamarind drink. I didn't even get any coconut water because after I ate, I think I waited a little bit too long on Saturday to eat. And so my stomach was a little bit off because the food was spicy. And I realized that if I eat spicy food on an empty stomach, I'm normally going to have a problem. So I probably should have, you guys know I'm doing this whole intermittent fasting thing, but I didn't get to eat until like after 2:00. So by then I was literally starving. It was closer, I think, to 3:00. And I was like, oh God, I'm just going to eat. Like I wasn't really thinking about the spiciness of like the Cayman style lobster, and the conch, of course, was well spiced. So my stomach was upset and I wanted to try other stuff, but I had to be very careful because I think I suffer from a little bit of what's called IBS, which is irritable bowel syndrome. And so TMI, I know. And so what I tend to do is when I go to these events, I have to really decide what I'm going to eat. One vendor, every year I normally get like some green juice from him and other stuff. And, I couldn't, I was like, I think he was thinking I just didn't want his stuff. And I was like, no. I got to run and get to the bathroom. I got to go home right now. So I did not indulge as much as I ordinarily would have in the drinks and the food, because I've actually noticed this happened to me at a few, what's that event called? Taste of Cayman events, right? Like I cannot mix too many foods as well. So if I go out and there's like different vendors, if I eat from too many vendors, that's a problem. So I really, yeah. So yeah. Yeah. So yeah. So I just I try to like I might have to pick like one or two vendors and kind of stick to that. And if it's like different different spicy levels and whatever, I just have to really, 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 really be careful. So I've been trying to drink more water. What else did I do on Saturday? Saturday was full of a bunch of errands. Like I ran a lot of errands. I was up and down all over the place, honey chill. Servicing a couple customers. You guys do know I work for a living. I know, shocker. And I don't really get like a day off necessarily. So Saturday was my day to run up and down. I had to go to the pharmacy. I had to go, I went and saw 3 customers, one elderly man. They were all elderly men, by the way, so funny. One elderly man, I could not find him. I don't know where he went. He's normally always home, but he wasn't there. So I'm going to try to get to him a little bit later on today. But yeah, I ran a bunch of errands, and on yesterday, I kind of took it easy a little bit. I went and played some pickleball. Look, I finally got in a proper pickleball court and got to run around for about an hour or so. And that felt really, really good to be able to just sweat. It was hot out there. It was breezy because the wind kept like messing up our game. Like I thought I had it over the net and it didn't go over, but it was hot. It's still, it's only February, but shoo, it is hot. Trust me. It's going to be a hot summer, folks. Get ready for it. That's all I can tell you. I'm trying to remember what else I did as part of my Monday rewind. So anyway, in terms of news, a couple of things happened over the weekend. There was an accident yesterday. I'm trying to get an update on this young man. He's a teenager. I'm not quite sure how old. I'll try to get confirmation on his age. But he is, I think somebody said maybe 12 or 13. I'm not really sure. But he was in an accident yesterday, and he ran right into a car. And so, we put it up. Listen, we were getting reports early on that it was actually the fault. He's 13. Kids are going to be kids, and they don't always understand sometimes how their actions can be very dangerous. Like you're cycling in the road, you've got to be careful. I remember when I had my little bicycle in the States, I wasn't really allowed to go very far. I could only kind of like cycle around the block because, hello, America, somebody would easily kidnap you. But, I would cycle so fast around. I had a little BMX bike. Do they still make BMX? Is that still a thing? Child, I had a little blue and white BMX bike, and boy, I used to be like, toot, toot, toot. I used to cycle so fast, and I would just go around and around and around the block. But kids don't always appreciate danger when danger is present, and that's why we as adults, have an obligation to really ensure that we try to explain to kids. I know sometimes they don't always get it, but we should really try to explain to kids, why we don't want them to do certain things and why they have to be cautious and be careful. And I know in Cayman, I feel like, we grow up like with a sense of we're safe. We're removed from the craziness and nothing ever happens here, but that's not true. And I tell you guys this sort of thing all the time. So it's not true in a number of different levels. I think you just have to really, really, really remind yourself that, you just remind yourself to remind your kids that they have got to be careful. Now, this accident, the young man I hear him and his friends were riding up and down all day, as kids will do. And he just literally rode right out into the road, and a car was coming, and he collided with the car. Now, there is video footage out there. So I think some people connected to the situation were like, oh, this is fake news. He wasn't at fault. And I'm like, listen, no one is trying to say a 13-year-old kid. It's not like you're going to sue the 13-year-old kid. Like, I don't know what the parents are thinking here, right? But without a doubt, the kid ran into him. The car didn't run into the kid. Now, I don't know what else the driver was doing. Remember what we talked about on Friday about this concept of contributory negligence? Yeah. So, sometimes we contribute to the accident 100% at the time, 100%. So I don't really know why people are messaging saying that's not true when it was true. And I'm going to talk about this here in a second in the context of people who are closely attached to a situation, really getting in their feelings and sometimes perhaps trying to change the narrative when there is no narrative that should be changed, if that makes any sense. Like the truth is the truth, and you can't twist the truth. So, I think y'all need to be careful about the things that you want to say and how you want to change history. You can't change what's done. So anyway, poor kid. I hope he's okay. I understand that he had some head injuries. Now, there have been residents in that area, and I saw Sarah Sue mention on her social media that she's been talking about. She come like me, child. She got that what we call in the Caribbean goat mouth. And if you don't know what goat mouth is, don't make me say nothing about you, honey child, because you better run for the hills. But Caribbean people also say you salt when you say something. Yeah. But she's been talking about the need. She's obviously seen that this is a very dangerous situation. It's very close to Alton Drive. Is very, very close to a residential area on the bluff. Very well populated. I actually know the area, although I'm no expert on the BRAC. I do know exactly like the general vicinity. Like I've been there before, handing out flyers in the neighborhood. It's a populated area. And so, of course, kids are going to be running up and down and kids are going to be playing. And so drivers who are in that area also have a responsibility to ensure that you slow down, right? You should not be driving like a bat out of hell in a residential area. And of course, one way in which we try to get people to slow down is by the use of speed bumps. But as an adult, you've got to use your common sense. And if you're entering a highly populated area, some areas of the BRAC, there is literally like the bluff roads and stuff. You can get lost there, honey child. You have to call for help because you go there and you get lost. People don't know where the heck you are, any of that stuff. But, you've got to, when you're in a residential area, act accordingly. And don't be, I can't imagine the speed limit anywhere in the BRAC is more than 25 or 30. But don't even do that much if you're in a residential area because, kids are out and about and they're shooting out in front of traffic and that sort of thing. So, just drive and take your time and give children an opportunity to hopefully not get hit by a car. So apparently a physician of all things hit him. There were some people who were saying that the physician didn't stop. I don't have any confirmation of that, to be honest. So that is certainly not something that we could put out there. All I know is I saw what happened with the accident and I was shocked. And I could understand why, the parents are probably very, very upset regardless of how it happened. Because, it's pretty crazy. The speed at which the little young man was going. And you consider that with hitting a car that maybe was going 25 or 30, that's very, very impactful. Like literally his little bike just bounced off the car. The impact was that, but thankfully he's alive and we're hoping that he makes a full recovery. Was very, very difficult to watch. So, good morning to Nathina. Says that sounds like old age syndrome. Morning to Miss Dean. Andrea said she went to church and she cooked over the weekend. Alejandra says, I think some children need reverse psychology. Tell them to do it. And that's exactly what they don't want to do. You've got to take time sometimes and explain to children why you tell them something. Because, like I said, kids don't appreciate a situation until they're in it, And I think despite our best efforts as parents, the truth of the matter is there will be some things that you can't save your kids from because they're not going to listen to you no matter what. Their little brains are like, no, mommy and daddy, I'm going to do whatever I want. And here you are like, honey, child, just listen to your mama because, I don't want you to hit your head. And they're still like, yeah, I'm going to go out there and do it anyway. So, yeah, I mean, I do sympathize, Alejandro, as parents that sometimes we struggle. But, hey, we were kids once as well. And I'm sure, you didn't listen to your parents probably 90% of the time. So it is what it is, I suppose. Some kids I think are a little bit more naturally obedient than others. Every child is different, just depends on their personality. But that's what kids do anyway. They test boundaries, folks. That's kind of what they're all about. That's the flex that they're on. You set the boundaries and they test the boundaries, yes? And that is why you have got to number one, set boundaries and then understand that when your children don't adhere to those boundaries, there has to be consequences. Sometimes the consequence will be that they'll get licked off their bike and hopefully survive. And then you go, aha, didn't mommy tell you not to do that? It reminds me of the time that I kept telling Gianna, don't run up to the door when I open the door. And she's like trying to peek out and see who's there. And one day she got her finger stuck in the door and the door got closed on her finger. And oh boy, the screams. Oh my God. It was horrendous. And oh my gosh, right? So that was a tough lesson. And to this day, some of the best lessons are the ones where you get a knock in your head. Because to this day, folks, she still talks about that finger in the door, right? When she gets a little bit too close, she's like, remember when the door hurt my finger? Listen, those types of memories are ingrained in your brain like forever kind of thing, right? And that's when you have a traumatic experience. That's how life also has a way of teaching you those really, really tough lessons as well. That, hey, don't stick your fingers in doors because, there will be consequences for that. Don't stick your hand on a hot stove because unfortunately there will be consequences for that as well. So I do think that children might take them a minute to get caught up and to learn certain things, but invariably they will through experience. You try to protect them as much as you possibly can, but I think that sometimes it is just, it's just difficult. You've got to give them a little bit of leeway to make mistakes because that's what children will do. So, yes, we're wishing that young man a full recovery because, that knock that he got yesterday did not look good. And so, yeah, a lot of people sent us the links for the video. I did see the video. I made a decision not to put the video up mostly because it's a child. And so, don't want this child and his family to be further traumatized by having that out in the public purview. Although, believe me, if I've received it multiple times, it's already in pretty wide circulation, right? So, yeah. Now, let me talk about the drug overdose on Friday a little bit because this is going to play into the next topic that we're going to move into. And it's when people decide to come for me and they try to do so in what they think is the most hurtful way. In particular, when they try to bring in an innocent child into the mix, right? I'm going to tell you guys exactly what happened in relation to that on Friday and what my response has been. So thanks, Nathina. Morning to Miss Cindy. We've got Jonathan in the house. Jonathan says, if you can't hear, you'll feel. Well, them old people used to tell you that all the time. That was a very famous saying in my household. If you can't hear, you'll feel. And she probably meant I was going to feel at her hands. So not always that I was going to fall and bump my head. But she was waiting there with the belt and whatever form that was. Also, what's the other saying? You make your bed hard you're going to lay in it. So in other words, it is what it is. We got an early call this morning. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Good morning.
Hello. Good morning. How are you?
Good.
Mm-hmm. What's on your mind today?
Okay. For advice of the listening public,
Mm-hmm.
if there's a road that you don't see a speed limit sign, the speed limit is 25 miles per hour.
If you don't see the sign.
Yes, if there's no sign on that road,
Mm-hmm.
you
Okay.
should not drive in excess of 25 miles per hour.
Okay. I must say, I think most of our streets have relatively good signage. So,
But just to say, let's say you didn't see a sign, you should not exceed 25 miles per hour. And if you're in a car that is in kilometers per hour, do not go over 40 kilometers.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And next one, I hear you mention something about 25 miles per hour for that vehicle that was doing that accident.
Well, I don't know what the speed limit is, to be very clear,
Yes,
on the BRAC in that area. But I said, even if it was going 25 miles per hour, if you run directly into it, that's still a pretty serious collision.
Well, just in case it was doing 10,
Mm-hmm.
you need special training to do pedestrian and bicycle accident investigation. So just in case it was doing 25 miles per hour.
Mm-hmm.
Every second, if you're doing 25 miles per hour, you'll be covering 36.65 feet every second.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And you need special training to do those kind of accidents.
I appreciate it. Well, hopefully the RCAPS has someone on board.
There are 3 people that do that.
3 people. Wonderful. Yeah. I guess they sent them over to the BRAC early this morning. Yeah?
All right.
All right, my dear. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yes, I don't work with them anymore.
Yeah, I know. We know. Trust me, we know. Thank you.
Yes.
All right, folks. Useful information. Good to know. Yes, I mean, when you're cycling, walking, you're not in a car, you're at more risk than everybody else. So just be extra careful. Cameron says, hard head, make us soft. You know what? And yes, the old people might have said that to you as well. All right. So, vendor arrested at Town Market Friday for working outside her permit. Never heard of it. Any news on this? Nope. Vendor where? Where's Town Market? I don't even know where Town Market is. Nope, we've not heard that. I'm going to talk about that in a second here. Cayman problems as well. When people think that we do literally know everything, I mean, we probably know about 85% of what happens in this country, but we don't know everything. So some people assume we know everything. They're like, why aren't you talking about this? Are you trying to hide this? I'm like, y'all need to calm the hell down now. Just calm down. There's no conspiracy theories around here. So listen, the young man had an overdose on Friday. I think we broke that story during the morning show. You know, I don't know what to say about this young man other than obviously he had his troubles that were well documented. His name, I think at this point, everybody in Cayman knows who he is. Jeff Scott, you know, he's been on our radar for a minute. He's been involved in a number of different things. He was convicted of a number of different things. At one point, he was arrested for having an underage girl in his unlawful custody all weekend. There were allegations that he had drugged her and was having sex with her, which is a rape because she's underage. Let's not cut it any other way. And so, you know, Jeff had his slew of problems. Lots of people in the BRAC complained about him all the time and complained about, you know, his drug use. And, you know, he, I'm not sure that he necessarily hid some of his drug use, but I don't know what else he was into. So this young man had issues, you know. At the end of the day, he still has family, I suppose, that despite his issues must still care and love for him. And, you know, listen, it is an unfortunate situation because I think by all accounts that this young man was afforded by his own parents a very good life. I mean, here he is dripping in gold, right? He's got, several coins and a ring and a bracelet and earrings, all this kind of stuff. Folks, none of those things will make your children or people any better if they have underlying issues. I don't know where this young man went wrong in his journey, but it seems like he was very, very young. 2021, he was only 24 years old. So I guess now he'd be about 26. And he was arrested at a residence in Cayman Brac back in 2021 after there was, let me correct the story. In 2021, he was recently released from prison. And then he was, involved in some other activities. So he was facing multiple charges. This is the story that we have up here. After having been released from prison, he was facing 8 new charges, including causing fear, provocation of violence, attempted arson, assaulting a police officer, and disorderly conduct. So he was also sentenced in 2019 or 2020 for imprisonment for the defilement of a girl under 16. Supplying her with ganja. And he was, of course, in 2 years probation for that incident. He ended up pleading guilty to that. And he was also charged with wounding to kill. I think that they reduced that particular charge. And that's where he was partying with a guy, his friends apparently, up at, again, out on remand in his ankle bracelet as usual. That was like a piece of his jewelry, child. He always had that on. And he was out on remand and he cut a man's throat because he was doing drugs. And I think some of these drugs literally make you crazy. I don't know what kind of drugs he was into and what exactly he was up to, Tony Child, but apparently him and his friend were partying a little bit too hard. And he was charged with wounding to kill. I think eventually they downgraded that sentence from the offense from wounding to kill to wounding with intent, which are two very, very different things. So unfortunately, poor Jeff was in and out of jail, in and out of the courts. I mean, my gosh, I was beginning to wonder how much money he was spending on, or his family was spending in his defense. The Honorable Judge Roger Chappelle at the time, this is back in 2020, said that Scott has for many years decided to live outside the criminal law. So in other words, he was just not a law-abiding citizen. And this was in relation to the defilement of the child under 16 years of age. Chappelle said that he knew perfectly well that she was under 16. It's just crazy. Well, he ended up pleading guilty 12 days before his trial was to begin. So, of course, for the guilty plea, he got a 20% discount in his sentence. He didn't spend very much time. It said that he plied her with alcohol and ganja, and then had sex with her, which he claims was consensual. You cannot have consensual sex, folks, with a child under the age of 16. So be very, very clear. The court would never see a situation like that as consensual. So the details are here, unfortunately, about a lot of his life. Apparently, he suffered from anxiety disorder, substance abuse disorder, and conduct disorder. And, when you have anxiety disorder, doing drugs is probably not going to make that any better. In fact, it will make it worse. And the judge made it very, very clear that these issues did not diminish his culpability for the offense. So, people like to talk about their mental health issues, and that's fine. I know we live in the world of mental health where everybody now has mental health issues. Even the victim's family, which is unfortunate for them, were advocating for rehabilitation for him as opposed to a prison sentence. And I can tell you that, there comes a point in time when rehabilitation doesn't really have the impact that it should any longer. So this was a very unfortunate end, but I think that a lot of people are probably not entirely surprised by where poor Jeffrey has ended up. Listen to the old wisdom of our forefathers. They said it straight. You live a particular life, you're going to probably end up dying a particular life. It's just as simple as that. When you live recklessly, you're probably shortening your days. Yeah. So some of you got offended because in the post we said the young man was wearing an ankle bracelet because he had literally just the day before gotten out of jail, got bail, went to Cayman Brac, and in less than 24 hours he was dead. Some people are saying, was it a suicide? Was it this? Was that? I don't know, folks. I think that what we do know is that the drug issue in Cayman Brac has to be addressed. I understand that there's potential for fentanyl to now be in Cayman Brac, and fentanyl is deadly on its own. And apparently they're lacing the cocaine with the fentanyl and smoking it. And if you want to die, that's a surefire way to kill yourself. Even if you don't want to die, that's a surefire way to kill yourself. So yes, Cameron says, what was the fuss about the monitor, ankle monitor? I don't know why y'all feel a particular way about certain things. Like, oh, you shouldn't have said that. Listen to me. Was it the truth? Did anybody lie on the young man? No, it's not a lie. It's the truth. He still had on his ankle bracelet. How does that impact the story, right? The truth of the matter is this. Y'all live in denial on a large scale. And Cayman Brackers in particular, their denial is like off the charts. All of us live in denial here in Grand Cayman because y'all never want to believe nothing. But Cayman Brac, they're a little bit more special. And this is one of the reasons why drugs is so rampant on the Brac, why child abuse is so rampant on the Brac, because it's like them Cayman Brackers just live in a world of their own. They don't want to believe nothing. They've got some of the worst kids and teens and adults, seniors who've been molesting children from Jesus was a baby. And them fools still over there talking about, oh, he's up in the church. He got a little position in the community. He's this, he's that. It's like, so what? He's actually a child molester. And well known. Y'all know it. And you're still sending your children out there to like hang out with this person. What is wrong with you all? I don't know how to explain it. But what I can tell you is Cayman Brac kind of takes things to a very different level, huh? Oh, well, you shouldn't say that, I'm offended by that. Well, honey child, if you're offended by the truth, I don't know what the hell you're doing in Cayman Mall Road. I mean, let me be very clear. That is probably not the platform for you. Go find something else to read if you want to live in a fantasy world. This ain't it, honey child. This ain't it. Yeah, we stated a fact. That is the fact. Did the man have on his ankle bracelet? Yes, Miss Sandy. Then shut your mouth, because nobody not speaking nothing. Oh, but you shouldn't speak ill of the dead. You speak the truth, regardless of the person dead or alive. Because there are other young people who are sitting down there, and I saw some of the comments on Instagram talking about, oh, fam, and all this kind of stuff. Our young people live in a bubble, and some of them are downright stupid, if truth be known. Yes? And they will be making the exact same mistake. Some of them have no capacity to learn even from other people's mistakes. And y'all sitting down talking foolishness about, oh, don't say that he has on an ankle bracelet. Tell these young people, if they live in a revolving door, in and out of prison, constantly using drugs, right? Strung out on drugs, they think it's funny. They're going to end up probably 6 feet under. And there's nothing funny about that whatsoever. Yeah. So, I'm just thinking that y'all really need to get a bit of a reality check when it comes to these types of situations. Stop trying to hide, because y'all know you're not really hiding nothing. Everybody in the Brac knew this young man. And I mean, if I told y'all some of the comments that came out about him that we wouldn't post, most people, let me just put it as nicely as I possibly can. Most people in the Brac are not going to miss him. Even the young man who got killed in the car accident a couple days before, most people in the Brac will tell you they're not going to miss him either. There are some people that just have been causing so much havoc around the people that the only people that are going to miss them is probably their family members. And even some family members, if they were honest with you, they're going to be like, less stress for me. Yeah. Y'all are not able to see, just because they're family or you like someone, what little monsters we have roaming around in the community. So, Stephen, we're on the backup YouTube feed. I've just posted it on Facebook, so you can grab that link. Make sure you like that page. I'll put it here in the comment section, actually. So for those of you who want a backup link, give me 1 second. Let me find it for you. Yeah, follow this one as well, because when we're in jail with the one, the other one is normally up and going. So we do have two channels. So I'll give you the link for the second one. So yeah, I mean, I'm not here to try to make y'all feel better. Honestly, I'm here to simply deliver news on the one hand, that's the website and the news platform, and on this show to deliver a dose of the cold hard truth. And sometimes the truth is so cold and so hard that it's just difficult for you to comprehend, that there's no way to cushion that. It just is what it is. Yeah. So I don't know what to tell y'all. It's not my job to try to make you feel like you may not have actually failed as a parent. If you failed, you failed. Unfortunately, sometimes there are things that can recover your kids. Sometimes, as you little brat says, children grow what they see. You're trying to give your children. I was saying this to a cousin of ours in New York about children, because listen, whether you live in New York, Cayman, wherever, the hustle is on for you to try to get something for your kids, because the world and the times have changed, right? No matter where you live in the world, your children in 20, 30 years are going to be in a very different position when it comes to acquiring, land, property. It's not just the Cayman Islands. I know y'all think it's just Cayman, but it's not just Cayman. So I was talking to her and she was saying how, she's trying to work towards leaving her kids something. And I said, it's a bit of a double whammy with children, because I'm doing the exact same thing, trying to see if I can pick up a little piece of land here, there, and everywhere to leave for my daughter. I've only got the one child, so I guess it's a little bit easier in a way, but it's a struggle. It's a hustle out in these streets. And so I said to her, the irony of it is, me and her and people of our generation, a lot of us, we did not grow up with any degree of privilege, right? We had to hustle. Listen, had jobs from the time you were 12, 13 years old, you were out there hustling. I remember even in elementary school, I had a little hustle, although my aunt didn't know about it. And I think the situation with my aunt, it wasn't that I necessarily wanted for anything in terms of needs. She definitely provided that without a problem. But kids need little spending money. And so I didn't just get handed spending money. It wasn't like, oh, here you go, here's $25. I had to hustle for that. So child, I'd go by and I was selling chocolates in the 7th grade to other kids. I kind of got in trouble for that because the school didn't actually allow that sort of thing. But child, I had my Snickers bars. I'm like, oh, you just had lunch. Now you need a snack, a very unhealthy snack. Check Sandy for your dollar Snickers, So I would buy them by the pack and then resell them and stuff like that. And, I used to go and pick up cans. So my uncle, he did it. He would go outside of his job and he'd pick up bottles and cans. And then we'd go to the recycling facility and I was there with him. And I was like, okay, I'm going to get my bag of cans and bottles. And then he would let me keep that money. I got money for grades. If I got I had to get an A to get any money. But whenever I got an A in my report card, I get I think it's maybe $5 an A or something back in those days. So, I had chores to do. I never got paid for chores because my aunt didn't believe in paying you for chores. She's like, you live in this house, you got chores to do. There's no payment for chores. So there wasn't any there. But I finagled. And I remember brokering the deal about the grades. That wasn't something that was on the table. I brokered that. Child, had negotiation skills from then. So, we've had to hustle our entire lives. When I first came to Cayman, child, my hustle was strong. I brought cell phones in. Remember the old Nokia cell phones that are like big clunkers? I got a batch of those on the cheap back in the day. This shows you that even in the 90s, we didn't have nice phones in the chat. We had like the old, but the Nokias were solid. They were big, the big phones. And I told my dad, I'm like, Dad, I need some money because I didn't have any money to buy the phones. So I was like, listen, I need some money to buy these phones. I got a good deal. I could buy, I can't remember how many it was. It was not many. And I was like, then I can come and resell them because I see how jacked up prices are in Cayman. Mm-hmm. And then I'll pay you back, you know? And he was like, okay. And that's what I did. I bought the phones, gave him his investment money back, and then the proceeds I kept. And then on the weekends, I was hustling, making cakes. I was baking brownies and all kind of cakes for his little restaurant, Top Taste. My dad owned that restaurant. And so I was out there hustling and doing the desserts because I walked in there one day and, you know, typical Caribbean people. I'm like, okay, you got Caribbean food. That's fine. That's whatever. But where's the dessert, Dad? I don't see no dessert up in this place. People need a little cake, a little brownie, something. And so he was like, nobody up in here could be making that. So I said, I'll make it. And so then I would make it and take it in to Miss, what was the woman's name again that used to work for him? I can't remember now. Anyway, the Jamaican lady was there. I can't remember her name. Nana or something her name was. Anyway, yeah, so I would bake and take it and sell it, and then I'd get the proceeds from that. We were hustling, folks, because nobody wasn't giving us anything. And so I said to her, I said, you know, the irony of it is, here we are trying to give our kids a better life. And we are working hard at this and, you know, better education, better life. You know, we don't want our kids out in these streets having to hustle and work hard. But, you know, at the same time, when we do that, we're actually creating a detrimental situation for kids. Hard work never kill nobody. Hustling never kill. A real honest hustle. When I say hustle, I don't mean you're out there pimping and selling drugs. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about an honest hustle. You know, those things never killed anyone, and it taught you some good work ethics. Most children who are given stuff in life don't know what it is to have to work for nothing. They don't get the message of how to, you know, make sacrifices, how to go without. Some days, yes, you're not going to have food, or you might not have a whole lot of food. They're not going to know that journey. So I said to her, I said, you know, in our efforts to make things easier for kids, so to speak, we end up spoiling them, and we end up creating a situation where they can sit down all day and smoke pot and eventually get to harder drugs and do nothing with their lives. And so you have to be very, very careful. I'm not saying that you can't give your kids a better life than you did, because some of us grew up poor and you wouldn't want that and wish that on your kids or anybody. But, you know, you have to be careful when the pendulum swings too far in the opposite direction, because you end up raising entitled, spoiled little brats who don't even understand what the real world is like out there. They grew up in a 4, 5, 6,000 square foot house, and these kids out there talking foolishness about, oh, my house is so small. It's like, try growing up in a little one room. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what? Kids don't appreciate. And that's why, even if you have kids and they're quote unquote privileged, y'all need to make them go out there and volunteer, help poor people, you know, go to soup kitchens, still go pick up cans and bottles. If you live in the States, we're not gonna recycling here. You know, make them work with animal groups, make them get their hands dirty, make them see that not everybody is as fortunate as you are, and not everyone gets to live this kind of, you know, beautiful life, right? So handing your kids everything can be very detrimental. Like I tell y'all need to read that book, The Millionaire Next Door. It's a wonderful book about habits that millionaires have. And one of the most detrimental things for second generation millionaires who acquired the millions from their parents is they don't tend to keep it for the exact same reason. Number one, the parents don't want them to work, right? So a lot of millionaires come up in industries. They are industrialists, so to speak, right? They're not white collar people. Okay. They started hustling at 16 years old. They became millionaires. When it comes time to have their kids, they're giving their kids every luxury under the sun. And giving your child every luxury under the sun is not something, folks, that is going to ordinarily benefit them. Your children just don't get the message, because we're also not simultaneously teaching them the values that come with that. The other reason why second generation kids of millionaires don't tend to keep the millions in the family, is that they also tend to, like, as parents, we're like, oh, well, I want my child to become a doctor and a lawyer and these professions that we think are notable, royal, whatever. What's the word I'm looking for? Prestigious positions. And that means that they're going to be in university for 15, 20 years of their lives before they can actually start to make any real money. And then they come out with all sorts of debt. When you go to places like law school in the US, for example, in medical school, you acquire a lot of debt. Yes? Because that's like 2 degrees down. You want to become a doctor. You're going to have to specialize as a heart surgeon. That's like 15, 20 years of professional training for you to be able to really start making any money. And so you only start making money in midlife. You're already downhill when it comes to, becoming a millionaire or maintaining your millionaire status. And then, of course, their spending habits are totally off the chain and absolutely ridiculous. So we have to be measured, I was saying to our dear cousin, in what we give our kids. And kids know it. Kids grow up with a sense of, oh, mommy just gives me everything that I want. And, you don't say no to them. You don't say, nope, mom doesn't have that. Nope, I haven't budgeted for that this month. I try to make a point of, even when I don't have it, or when I do have it, I still say no. Not in the budget. Not that I can't afford it. I won't afford it. Nope. And you have to earn it. And you earn it through doing the things that you need to do in life. And I got a little, I'm going to share a little tip with you guys. For those of you who are into the whole, you're trying to parent your kids. I'm going to show you all my latest little thing here. These are punch cards. I'm going to share this with you parents. Get with the program now. Make your kids earn stuff in life. So here's my little punch card system I got over the holidays. And I was telling Gianna about it. I'm going to introduce her to this. So you get these little punch cards. Yeah. And it comes with a little puncher and everything. And this is how you reward your kids. So, sometimes it's hard to keep track. And trust me, kids be like, oh, it's time for me to get something again. You're like, didn't I just get you something last weekend? So this is just a tracking system, and it's super easy. Y'all know I get my stuff off of Amazon. So you get these tracking. I got 2 different ones because they're so cute. You get these punch cards, right? And so your kids now, you can give them different things. So this punch cards belong to, and you put in their little name, and 10 punches equals. So it's not always about physical things. It might be like an ice cream treat, or, going to the park, or just something that they enjoy doing. Like my daughter loves Turtle Farm. So one of her treats will be going to Turtle Farm for the afternoon. Yeah. And she has to earn 10 punches. And I have a deduction system too, honey child. I takes away points. I don't play around. So you can earn points for good behavior, and you can have points deducted for bad behavior as well. So they have the 10 punch cards. And then this is great, especially for younger kids. Like, younger kids love stuff like this, like a reward system. And they can keep this little card in their rooms if they have a little handbag or whatever. Right. And then this one is the best behavior, B as in bzz, punch card. And this one goes up to 21 punches. So, you put their little name again in there, like Gigi's best behavior punch card. And then again, this is how they earn their points. Just a creative way of, having them keep track of when they're doing really, really good things. And this is also a fantastic way, folks, of reinforcing good behavior. Because, we all get under kids when they do something bad, but y'all need to be praising them for good behavior as well. When they're doing good things, let them know that you're super proud of them. Like, for real. Like, oh, wow, mommy really likes how you did that. You got a good grade. You've been paying attention in your class. You're top student or whatever. Reward your children for good behavior. And then on the back of this one, it says, this is good info for parents. As research, it takes the brain 21 days to construct a new nerve channel. Human behavior will form into habit after 21 repetition, and the habit will become stable after 90 days. That's true for us too. Some of y'all need these punch cards for yourselves. Sandy's best behavior punch card. This will be for my exercise program. 21 days of walking, and then I can treat myself to something. So, these tools are available out there. One day I'm going to spend a whole day telling you guys about some of the parenting tools that I use, because I can research and I can find me some good stuff, all kind of books and materials that are relatively inexpensive or free a lot of times. I've got a wonderful resource on a website that's completely free. We need to share this information with each other, right? A lot of times I tell you guys I don't believe in corporal punishment, but not believing in corporal punishment doesn't mean that you sit down and do nothing. It means that you come up with constructive ways of encouraging your children to engage in positive behavior, right? You address the negative behavior, deducting a point, taking things away, and so on. And you also, when they're doing something good, you let them know how incredibly proud you are of them as well. So Cameron says, I wonder if they know how to open a tin of mackerel. I'm not a fond of mackerel myself for health reasons. But listen, the bottom line is this. We have to be our biggest champions for children. We have to protect them in this world, but we also have to do right by them. And spoiling your children and not setting any boundaries for them is not how you offer them a good life. And I think a lot of people, unfortunately, miss that memo entirely. And so it is a very, very sad situation, because ultimately our children grow up into adults that don't know how to self-regulate, that end up having all sorts of, talking about they have anxiety disorder, substance abuse, conduct disorder. Child, in them old days, and people would say you just not got no behavior, and they would try to beat it out of you, right? But it's much harder to bend the tree when the tree is already 25 years old and hasn't been engaging in this bad behavior from the time these kids are 10, 11 years old. They're out here smoking pot and weed and marijuana and all this kind of stuff. You can't just turn that behavior around, no matter how you slice it. Yeah? So, let me talk about something now that's very, very serious, since we're talking about our kids. This whole situation with Renato Harris, his family seems like they strike me as people who don't have a whole lot of sense. I hate to say it, but really and truly. Cameron says, saying I don't want them to go through what I went through is fine, but will be detrimental if they don't. Yeah, sometimes it's about just being balanced, right? Alejandro says, that's a cool idea. Wish I was a kid again. But Alejandro, you have kids? Then you use these systems with your children, and you'd be surprised how you can reinforce positive behavior. Cameron says, Sandy have punch cards and ting. Real old supervisor, come see down at some of these what work sites. All right, so listen. Renato's family, we saw his mom in the comment section on, I think that was Thursday when we were doing Thursday's show, calling me a liar. I'm lying at her son, all this kind of stuff. Well, honey child, y'all saw that I addressed her, and I tried to do it in as professional a manner as possible. Okay. For those of you who need it broken down in the best common denominator, let me try to do it for you. Yes. When you have been exposed to ignorance, ignorant people, ignorant situation, sometimes we grew up in ignorance, and so you're well familiar with it. You hear me often talking about growing up in chaos. Yes. I understand a thing or two about ignorant people. Trust me. They say the apple sometimes doesn't fall far from the tree. Y'all know what I'm talking about. I've seen ignorance. I've been exposed to ignorance. I myself have been ignorant and belligerent at times. Maybe not as bad as some people, but don't think I wouldn't cuss you out on a good day. Just being completely straight with you. There's certain things that you cannot do to me and you come at me sideways, and if you get a cussing, you're probably lucky, because that means that I'm upset, but I'm not like over the top. And there's certain things that will push me over the top. And I'm going to tell you this thing this weekend that happened on Friday that I'm having to address now. So, of course, his mom came in the comment section. Listen, woman, I know that this is your son. Okay. I understand. I also know that you probably may not be aware fully of the type of son you have. I don't know where y'all come from in Jamaica, but, I don't want to make any dispersions about your situation. Let me just leave it there, because some people come from good homes and they still end up being horrible people. I don't think that's really the case with Renato. I'm going to be completely honest with you, based on the reaction from his family members. And it's so interesting that it's women, his sister and his mother, that is coming up in the comment section. Now, what is really shocking is that these people somehow are blaming me for their issues. I'm like, what do I have to do with Renato's sentencing, or the fact that he raped and assaulted a woman not once but twice? Honey child, I ain't got nothing to do with that. I am just here to report the news. And as I said earlier, the news gets reported equally by me, whether the person's Caymanian, Jamaican, white, black, Asian. I don't care. If it's news, it's news. Yes? And we simply report it. Now, I'm also aware that they seem to think that I have some kind of personal issue with Renato. Listen, I don't know Renato particularly well. We worked together at DMS. Like, I had a show over there before. Renato was there as a DJ. Renato and I have never sat down and even broken a piece of bread together. I don't know Renato like that. Obviously, I know who he is. I pass the man on the street, can hail him up, can stop and have a little conversation. At one point, I hadn't seen him for years. I remember when he went in jail, the one time over the sun, he kind of had mentioned it in passing to me. And I was like, oh, wow, that's kind of messed up. But you do certain things, you're behind, gonna land in jail. Now, let me be very clear. They don't send you to jail for a regular beating of your child. So for him to be sent to jail for what he did to that child, it had to have been pretty serious. Okay? People end up, we just had one in court the other day for hitting the child in the hand with some kind of object or something, child cruelty, his own child. And he got like a suspended sentence. He didn't get no jail time. Right? So it takes a lot for the courts to, in an environment where corporal punishment is still very much allowable, it takes a lot for people to say, the courts and the police and everybody else to say, okay, you've crossed the line here. And not only have you crossed the line and we're going to charge you and take you to court, but this warrants a jail sentence. We can pull the file and see exactly what he did to that child if we need to. But let's just say that Renato has been a troubled individual for a really long time. I listen to people talk about Renato, people who've worked with him, his former employers and so forth. And you know what these people say if you ask them, okay, describe Renato for me? They'll say to you, well, how do you know when Renato's lying? You're like, how? When he opens his mouth. He's known as a pathological liar. He tries to manipulate people. The dude has some serious issues. Yeah? His victims have come forward, the ones that never took him to court, about how he was coming through their bedroom window, how he was stalking them, how they had to go to, other people, other men, to try to get help from Renato. He victimized a lot of people in his time. And what people say? You give somebody enough rope, they can hang themselves. Time longer than rope, and eventually one day it runs out. You take the bucket to the well every single day, one day the bottom gonna drop out. And his bottom dropped out 16 and a half years, and he is exactly where he should be. In fact, he probably should have gotten more than that, but the court only looks at what's before it. Now, I'm also aware that we were the only media that was there watching and monitoring this case, because I was in the courthouse, so I know. Media houses are pulled in different directions, and we are spread thin, right? Back in the heyday, the Compass had Miss Carol Winker, bless her heart, may she rest in peace. Her only job was a court reporter, and she would cycle her little bicycle there every single day. And she would sit down, I remember, and she would cover these cases. She didn't do anything else. So she was able to, keep up with the continuity of the cases. She went from one court rod to that. Listen, that's what she did. It's difficult when you're not the size of the compass and you don't have 50 people hired. Yeah. You can't have a dedicated court person. So I do most of the court news myself. Occasionally, if I'm not able to go, I can pull in someone to go there for me. So like Tiffany, when she had her second day of trial, I was actually off island returning that day. So I sent somebody else to take notes because we try to get our information, especially what's said in court, as accurate as possible. Yes. And so we're here reporting the news and y'all are taking it personal. I understand that as his family members, maybe you're going to go to bat for him, no matter what he does. That's what I call an enabler. We see the same thing with Ms. Kayman and others, though, right? I guess maybe that's what human beings do. They live in denial. They think their family members are wonderful people, even when they know that they're not wonderful people. They live in denial and they just want to, there's a sense of embarrassment, of course, when your family members do things and everybody in the community knows about it. But denying it doesn't help that person. And denying it doesn't change the facts. And denying it, especially when it's a situation with like real victims. Every crime has a victim. But the victims are people like this young lady who was raped and sexually assaulted. And by the way, she's coming in the program March 8th. So please mark your calendars for that. She's going to talk about her advocacy and how this singular event has changed the course of her life forever. It's not just Renata's life he changed that day. Believe me, he changed her life as well. So they get in the comment section and they try to get personal with me. Now, honey child, you can come at me all you want. Because like I said, I'm an adult. If I choose to respond to you, if I choose to tell you about your behind, if I choose to cuss you out, you know it's coming. What I find disgraceful is when someone tries to involve my family or my children. Now you have crossed the line when it comes to me. But I'm going to demonstrate to you how much as an individual I have grown and matured even in the last couple years. Because his sister decided to come for my child on social media. And the last person that did it, this seems to be kind of a Jamaican style of doing things. I hate to say it. The last person that did it was another person who's now incarcerated for a number of years, Eve High Voltage, right? So these people think that they know things about your life, and whether they know it or not, they just feel like they can make stuff up. So she did her rants and raves on, some of you remember these live streams that she did, trying to attack me, trying to attack my husband, who she knows nothing about. Listen, when I tell you she couldn't even touch my husband's shoe with her big toe, much less walk in it, I'm not joking. He is a Jamaican as well, but the two of them come from very opposite polarizing areas and family values in Jamaica. Believe me, I don't know where she come from, but this is a principled man with standards and she don't have none. Yeah, there is a difference. So she talking dirty, low name calling. I mean, the vulgarity with which she attempted to go after me and my husband and even mentioned my child. And I said, wow, there's certain things that you really shouldn't speak on. And I feel like speaking negatively about somebody's child, especially when it's misinformation, is really, really problematic. I have a daughter who thankfully is a beautiful, smart young lady. She has a lot of potential, like any other children. You got to set boundaries and keep them in line. But people are out there and they're so confused that I have to just shake my head. I hear them saying stuff like this woman, I'm going to show you her message because it shows her level of ignorance. Oh, my daughter's special needs. Well, listen, if my daughter was special needs, that's not the kind of thing that I would hide. For far too long, we've lived in a community where those with special needs were hidden and we were ashamed of them. That's nothing to be ashamed of. Yeah. If your child has special needs, you love that child more, even sometimes, than a child who's quote unquote normal. You love that child. You give that child every opportunity in life because you know that they're already at a disadvantage. I have spoken very, very publicly about some elements of my pregnancy, about, her being underweight and being a premature baby by a month. She was 4 pounds, 1 ounce, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with the child. Even at one point, the neonatal specialist said to me, the neonatician said, we did all the tests. We did the hearing test, this, that. The baby seems alert. She said, at this point, we're looking for a needle in the haystack because I don't see anything wrong with this child. And it could just be that she was just growing really, really small. So let's just wait and see. And sure enough, every time you take her in for her, different markers, oh no, she's above average in this area. She's stacking the blocks higher than other kids at that age. There was nothing wrong with the child. She's just petite and tiny. Even now, she's still too tiny. We need to give her hormones. I'm like, no. Caribbean people not into that business. If she's eating and she's healthy, there'll be no hormone treatments. We don't need to force her to put on weight. Trust me, when she get my age, she'll probably still wish that she could that she was still slim and trim. Just leave the child alone. Yeah, she's fine. So people, because they're ignorant people, hear me talk about the premature journey and they assume that means that there's something wrong with my child. That's just ignorance at such a basic level. There are a lot of people who are born premature and there's nothing wrong with them. They live to be, perfectly functional adults. They're just tiny in size and that's pretty much it. I suspect that Renato in his ignorance must have told his sister and his mother that my child has special needs, which is not a true statement, but I want to make it very clear. Even if she had special needs, and I tell you what, my response would probably be very different if my child did have special needs. Because for someone to go that low and try to pick on a child that they believe has special needs, because although that isn't true, that is her belief. And this is the kind of vulgarity and disgusting behavior that this woman is involved in. Look at what she said about somebody else's child. And I'm assuming that she's a parent, right? She calls my daughter a little gorilla looking and handicapped daughter. She says, don't worry. Remember, you have a little gorilla looking and handicapped daughter growing up. Make sure that she don't get drunk and give her the P word away and say it's rape. Wow. First of all, this is where when you have grown as a person, let me tell y'all something in this moment. I know that when I saw that message and I replied with a degree of dignity, that I have grown as a person, because trust and believe. If this was even a couple years ago, my response to her, oh, geez, peas. Look at who calling who a gorilla. Is this woman for real? I mean, is she serious? Has she taken a look in the mirror? No, sir. Cindy said to me, Miss Sandy, you gotta read her. People were taking her picture. Let me show you what people were sending to me, saying, Sandy, post this up. This is her. Who looked more like a gorilla. And I said, you know what? I am not even going to go there. Because for me to bring myself down to her level says more about me than it is about her. Yeah, look at this woman. She is sick and disturbed in so many ways. This is vulgar. And I tried to maintain my perspective when I saw her comment. But you asking for trouble when you try to go after people's children. You can say anything about me in this world that you want, because I really don't care. But when you start to talk about, especially an underage child, not even an adult child, because adult children, you might get a little bit more liberty there. A child, a 6-year-old child, woman, and you're actually you're wishing rape on someone. I said, wow. But you know what? I let the comments sit there. And I exposed it because you all need to appreciate what it is that we have incorporated in this country and what we're bringing into this country and what we allow to walk amongst us. Now, this woman is not here. Believe me, if she was here, this would be also a very different conversation, because you cannot make those types of statements about people and think that there'll be no consequences for your actions. But you see, she's all the way in Jamaica, and she believes that she can sit down and say whatever she wants to say because she's over there. Huh. Mm-hmm. She should be careful, because the strong arm of the law can reach her in Jamaica as well. But you know what I want to point out more importantly to you all? Yes, it's horrible that this woman, who's probably a mother, would dare to make these types of comments about a child, vulgar and disgusting, lowest of the low. But here she is, defending a sexual assault that her brother has committed. That's the kind of people. Immigration, WRC, I hope y'all making a note of her name and ensuring that she's never able to come to the Cayman Islands, even on a visitor's visa, much less a work permit. Y'all need to start making some persons persona non grata. Like, literally have a list of people who cannot come into this country. You know what else is ironic about her comment? Is she's talking about, when somebody gets drunk and gives themselves away and then wants to claim rape. Clearly, what's her name? What her name is again? Renice. You are such a fool. You've not even been paying attention. This is a sad indictment on you. Because your brother, who you were trying to defend with that comment, you're actually contradicting your brother. Because your brother's defense was that she wasn't drunk. And you just said she was drunk. So which is it? Is he telling you that she was drunk? Because if that's the case, that's not what he got on the stand and said, huh? Of course, we know he's a liar and the judge did not believe him. So you're saying that you believe what the judge said, that she was drunk? Well, a drunk person can't give consent, you fool. To be very clear. And that is why he could not get on the stand and admit that she was drunk. Because he would be admitting that there was no way for her to give consent to him. And that is rape. But make no two bones about it. That's not all of the story of what happened here. And that's not the full story of what your brother did. Your brother turned around and raped her when she was sober in the morning, held her down, forced himself on her, and then had the audacity to say, see, there, are you satisfied now? After the second rape. That's why your brother got 16 and a half years, girl. Gabby says, see, that's where he got his disgusting behavior from. Yes, it's these types of enablers, folks, who are sitting around giving these people right. No telling how many times this boy has been accused of rape, and his family probably knows it. No wonder he has no respect for women, says Gabby. Of course, with a sister and a mother out there with this type of narrative and saying these kind of things, what young man would have respect for anybody? When you drag up your children in this type of environment where they can't respect somebody, telling them no, or there's someone who's incapacitated, right? Trust me. Like I said, I've come a long way, honey child, because you don't know. But, as I reflected on it, because a lot of you called me, thank you so much for your phone calls and your messages and your positive thoughts. Everybody with any sense was disgusted by this and expressed that. I think a lot of you were a little bit surprised at how calm I was about the situation. But, folks, as you get older, you're supposed to get wiser and a little bit more mature. And I have to recognize that sometimes, you have come a long ways, and then there are people who seek to pull you down or pull you back down to their level And you have to demonstrate just how far you've come. You have to rise up in the moment and not react in a belligerent, stupid way. Yeah? You have to remember what you have to lose. There are people who listen to this platform, including children. There are people who, respect what I have built and what I'm trying to do here. And for me to respond to her in kind would only reflect poorly on me. She's already demonstrated what she's all about. We can see that, honey Jill. She's disgusting. She's a disgusting, nasty, dirty person. So those of you who were wanting me to, Sandy, you got to do a live stream and done her, I appreciate the sentiment, but that would make her in many respects no better than me. Now, let me be very clear. What you try to tell your children? Sticks and stones can break my bones, but words can never hurt me. That's not actually entirely true. Words can hurt. We see a lot of children actually being hurt by words. But you've got to build your children to be tough. At my age, folks, I've got tough skin. See that? Tough and rough. Not too many words will have an impact on me. You do cross the line when you talk about a child. And when you talk about my child, trust me, she has crossed the line. And if she had said those words to me in person now, I might have had to pull a Tiffany Conley on her. Yeah, it would have probably been a very different situation. But it's so easy for people to hide behind a computer, hide behind a smartphone when they're so stupid and they're so dumb and posting foolishness like this. But the beauty of it is when they're there, these little keyboard trolls, it gives you a moment to pause before you respond and to compose your message and to hit that back button and to delete. Instead of telling her about her bumbleclot self, I came back with a more professional and appropriate response. And so, this is what we strive for. Be the example that you're trying to set for your children is what I was thinking in this moment. Alejandro says, this is so disgusting. That's so disgusting. And worse, it came from another woman. Yes. Anna, she sounds like she know a lot still. It takes one to know one. Wanda says, wow, that comment by his sister is disgusting. Cameron says, CC was on the case. Trust me. But this is it exactly, right? This is it. The apple never fall far. Okay? How do you have a young man grow up taking advantage of women sexually his entire life, and he thinks it's cool? It's because of people like this, because of a sister like that, because of a mother like that. Yeah. They sit back, and not only do they not give him any wrong, but they encourage the behavior. They're putting a narrative out there that a woman deserves to be raped. Oh, wow. That's what he did to his son? Damn. Shit. Wow. Well, now we know exactly why he went to jail. That wasn't an ordinary case. That was definitely abuse. You're not permitted to abuse your children under any circumstances. That poor child, my God. So unfortunate that some of us just roll the dice, get some horrible ass parents. Summer says, even the pose is on point. I'm just saying, she really does have some nerves talking about anybody's physical parents. You see, I'm a firm believer in there's certain things you just don't say. Okay? If you fugly, when you're in an argument and you want to talk about other people, you don't go to the looks department. You don't talk about other people ugly when you fugly. I'm just saying, common sense. We grew up old school where sometimes you would fight with your words and you tell people about their mama and this and that and whatever. But if you not got no mama, you really that shouldn't be your argument. Not the fighting words that you come to the playground with. And trust and believe, when somebody sent me that, I was like, geez, on peace. No, sir. Strong Will says, don't waste your time on them. You're bigger than this. Absolutely. Jim says you can dress some people up, but you can't take them out. Sean, some of these people you can't even dress up. Yeah. Lulu says she's either never seen Gigi or just grudgeful. You know, I just, poor old Jonathan talking about she's pot full of breadfruit and dumpling. You know, I really and truly, I'm trying to, you know, there's a balancing act here because I have a job to do. And I never want what I do to impact my children and my family because they don't have anything to do with this. And unfortunately, I recognize that sometimes there is as I always say, unintended consequence. So already my husband has lost a job because I wrote an article about rich people letting their children overdose at their parties and drink too much. William Squared got him fired for that story. Yeah, this is the real world. And so I understand that even when this is it, they can't come at me. I have thick skin. I'm not paying them no mind. They can't do nothing to me. They don't impact the food that I put on my table one way or the other. They try to then come at me through the people that I care about and the people that I love. But they had better be very, very careful. You know, trust and believe me. Even Kathy Williams, she's lucky I don't really see her too often. Because the first time I saw her after that incident, she had to walk on the opposite side of the sidewalk by Ty Orchid. Some people take some liberties with you, I tell you what. They're not easy. But you know, you try to rise above it. Renato is exactly where he deserves to be. His family will have to come to terms with that in their own time. That's on them. I noticed their comments also about, oh, y'all talk about deporting him like he don't have somewhere to go. I'm glad you say that. I'm glad you think that because when the time comes for deportation and I hear that he is trying to fight it, I will be the first to remind his mother if she's still alive and the sister if she's still alive. Oh, remember you said your brother has somewhere to go? So why is he fighting the deportation order? Remember your words because they will come back to haunt you. I am glad that he has somewhere to go in your arms as a no good mother who's supporting this kind of slackness. Folks, if your children do wrong, then listen, cloaking them up in their wrong is not something that is going to benefit you or your children or your grandchildren or whoever it is that you're trying to protect. I don't cloak nobody up and I don't care who it is in wrong. If you're wrong, you're wrong. That's how it is. It wasn't me that found the man guilty. The court system found him guilty. Mother dearest and sister dearest. If you all really cared to know the truth, you would have come to court and you would have listened to the evidence. I said to you guys on Friday that the judgment is now public judgment. It doesn't cover every single detail. Trust me, I read it and there's a lot that is not in there that you only see as a live witness. But read the judgment. I'm happy to send it to you. I had to pay to get a copy of it because nothing's free from the courthouse. So I had to pay to get a copy of it. I'm happy to send you the link for it. Read it. Read it in conjunction with the numerous articles that we would have written and what transpired during this case. And you would see that there should be no doubt in anybody's mind about what this man actually did. The victim was very, very compelling. Yeah? She spoke her truth. The judge believed her. I don't even think Renato's own lawyer believed him, to be honest. They take on these cases because they have to defend them. But trust me. So a lot of you saw me share this quote over the weekend. I don't know who this quote is actually being attributed to, but it says self-control is strength. Calmness is mastery. You have to get to a point where your mood doesn't shift based on the insignificant actions of someone else. Don't allow others to control the direction of your life. Don't allow your emotions to overpower your intelligence. And I thought this was very, very appropriate for me this weekend because trust me, any mother who hears somebody talking about her child goes, your whole head takes you, as some people would say, and you go in a totally different direction. And your emotions about the situation would indeed overpower your intelligence if you allow it to. But you've got to gain composure and control over yourself. And like I said, I am making the decisions about my life and what I'm doing and how I will react to something. I'm not going to let her and her stupidity dictate my response. Trust me, enough people are like, Sandy, drag her. And I said, no, she got issues. For any woman to actually say that, a woman deserves to be raped because she is under the influence, you got some problems. So I'm not dragging, first of all, you and I'm talking about that would be pay-per-view worthy seeing you and that woman throw down. I'm not throwing down with nobody. I have not had a fight as an adult with nobody, and I'm not starting now at almost the age of 50. Throw down with that? Honey child, please. Only in the name of self-defense am I going to put hands on somebody. And I don't want to imagine how that might end up. But if you touch me or you touch my child, I can box you down. There's no two ways about that. Be very, very clear. You're not going to roll up on me and threaten me physically and think that, oh, I'm just going to let you tap me. No, honey child, Tiffany, that wouldn't happen. Okay? I'm not going to be that victim who's going to be like, oh, officer, I was just trying to hold her. That is a good man. I know him and he's a good man, but that wouldn't be me. The second she boxed me the first time and knocked my glasses off my face, you can get what your mama should have given you a long time ago. A proper Caribbean ass whooping. That what you would have gotten. So you can cross the line with me now, Don't think that I'm no fool and I gotta be sitting here talking about, oh, you slapped me in this cheek, I gotta turn the other cheek. No, honey child, I'm not reading that section of the Bible. Sorry for you. I gotta be like, yo, the Lord said, vengeance is mine. You tap me, I can tap you twice as hard. And then we gotta go from there. Listen, and I gotta go so. And I gotta raise my daughter the same way. Words are words, and you can learn to deal with words, but ain't nobody touch you. You gotta go to karate school and learn how to kick them down a little bit, if need be. Okay. So every day, honey child, we gotta learn how to rise above the ignorance in this community. And like I said, thanks to social media, we're able to reach people long distances, so they think that their words all the way over there can reach me. Such a sad situation. Everton says that there's boundaries that grown people should not cross when it comes to children. You should not cross that boundary. Anybody knows that they're very immature. Never, ever cross that boundary by bringing children into whatever it is, what is wrong with people. Everton goes on to say he was a bread and butter probably, and that's why they're so upset, because he's no longer there to support them. He's behind bars. Well, he should have thought about that before he decided to rape a woman. I mean, this is all on him. Nobody put Renato in this situation but Renato. And the saddest thing is Renato never had to do this, because despite him being a little bit shady and grungy and whatever, he never had no issues getting women, because some of y'all didn't know the monster and you're so desperate. This man could have picked up a willing person that night. I'm sure of that. He claims he's a Don Juan and everybody wants to sleep with him, according to him. And none of these girls on the street want to use protection. So he could have found somebody else to get knocked up again and not this poor victim. So he made those choices. And the choices that he made has changed the course of his life and his family's life. And y'all must remember this. When you're out there in the streets getting involved in foolishness and doing stuff, it's not just you that will be impacted by your criminality. Your family also gets impacted. Strong Will says send Tiffany at her. By the way, someone called me or messaged me after the show and said that, in fact, Sandy, you and Tiffany are family. I said, oh, geez, peace. Will y'all leave me alone? They said, oh, Sandy, you don't know. But you know, Kim Onions, honey child. They said, yeah, you family to Tiffany too. I said, here, here the madness. I forget how they clean me family, honey child. Something about, what is it? That, oh God. Listening to the show this morning, yes, your family to Tiffany Conley. Her grandmother and your mother are first cousins. So that means that she'd be her grandmother and my mother first cousins. So her grandmother and my mother. That'd make us third cousins or fourth cousins? Anyway, she's my cousin. There you go. So her grandmother, on what side of her family? On the mother's side or the father's side? I don't know. Oh, they are sisters and brothers' children by the Max Field side, which would be my mother's side of the family. There you go. That's where she get that ignorance from too. She got it on both ends, honey child. Because I hear the father ignorant and the mother, well, you know the Max Fields are ready. I'm willing to admit we can be very ignorant people. What a mess. But, I would encourage Tiffany to also get her situation and her anger under control. Trust me, people will make you see red if you allow them to, But this is what I was telling another cousin the other day. I'm a very funny person, folks. If you see me cussing and carrying on, whatever, I'm upset. But when I'm really upset is when I go into silent mode. I call it silent but deadly. When you see that I ain't got nothing to say, oh, geez, peace. Listen, you better run. When you see me go quiet, you better run. Yeah, because that means I'm just here I need to start meditating, honey child. Yes, I'm going to start praying and meditating. Lord, please don't make me see this woman talking about my child look like a gorilla. Because Jesus, I might have to put my gorilla hands on her. Now I'll be sitting here in my head thinking like, Lord, thank God she's not in the Cayman Islands. Sandy, this is what's going through my head. Relax. Stay calm. Don't get into ignorant mode, honey. Chill. Nobody wants to see that. Let's have a Zen moment where we're going to be like, let's just meditate. Positivity, dear Lord. Please don't let the ignorant MacField side come out, because Lord have mercy. May I have to put my hands upon her and it's not going to be nice. And then the Lord is just like, all that good schooling and good brain you got, honey child. Remember, you're in control here. Don't let other people control your emotions, honey child. And I said, yes, Lord, thank you so much. I appreciate the calmness in this moment, because me want to pop off some words, punter. And the Lord said, no, Sandy, relax yourself. Relax. You would be no better than her in this moment, so just take it easy. And guess what? She can't do nothing to your child. And we have taken one less rapist off the streets of the Cayman Islands, and your child will be that much safer for it. Can I get a hallelujah up in here? Hold on. Hallelujah. Where's my hallelujah button?
Praise the Lord.
Yes. 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 Praise the Lord. Strong Will said he should go to Dog City and buy some put instead of rape night. Well, and not just Dog City, he can buy it, child. There's some highfalutin places that he could be buying it from. You'd be surprised who got it for sale. Not just people in Dog City now. Don't be making fun of them just because they're poor people. Trust me, them rich foreigners that come here got it for sale just as much, if not more, than people down in Dog City, honey child. So anyway, what your name is again? What your name is? I'm Gorilla Girl. We can pray for you. We can pray for you, honey child. Girl, you need Jesus in the worst kind of way. My God. Lord have mercy. No, sir. Yes, some of y'all sending me Bible verses this morning because you done know already. We needed some real intervention. When I saw that message, I was like, whoa, these people are really, really ignorant. No, sir. Live says John 1:19 and 20. So then, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, and slow to wrath. Yes, honey child. I tell you, I go into that silent mode. It's, yes, silent but deadly. Miss Dean says, yes, that's me, the silent mode. I count, I sing, I pray, and I preach. Honey child, I just don't have nothing to say because I don't know. The crazy in the genes is bubbling to the top, and I'm just trying to keep it under control. Anyway, that's all I can say to address that level of ignorance. And, I hope that these people see the error of their ways at some point. I can only wish them the best. This person says, Dr. Phil once said in his TV show that overindulgence of children is a form of child abuse because your job as a parent is to prepare your child for real life. When you give children everything without inculcating in them a sense of responsibility and earning rewards, they grow up entitled and may resort to criminal behavior to get whatever they feel entitled to. Teddy Roosevelt can speak softly and carry a big stick. Oh, he said speak softly. Yes, honey child. Speak softly and carry a big stick. Somebody says, good morning. You have me popping up here at work when you speak about silent mode. My boyfriend for 32 years never knew I was so dark. When I stand up to him 2 weeks ago, I was in silent mode. 32 years you had a boyfriend for? Girl, why was he a boyfriend for 32 years? Are you 32 years old? No, you said you had a boyfriend for 32 years. Honey child, let me tell you something. There are times when you really got to call on the Lord for some divine intervention. This person says, tell him that number 3 be coming to help you out, right? Help you get right with Jesus. But that out of order, oh my gosh, she used a W word, can kiss your nuts too. Yes. My goodness. What these women did in their reaction to your posting the story was to lash out at you because they are in complete denial over his behavior and actions towards others. They need to reflect upon what their part was and is in all of this and not deflect from the truth. Otherwise, nothing will change. And, we have to accept, folks, that at some point in time, you have to recognize that these people are not likely to change. And this is where we have to be very, very careful and very, very conscious and cognizant of what we are allowing into this country. Now, I want to talk about this other case, but we're going to take a quick commercial break here now. Of this other Jamaican fellow who's in court after stabbing a man 4 times. And a lot of you have questions about why isn't his ass in jail? Stay tuned, folks.
Let's go.
Honey, you remember to bring your lunch, right?
Oh, come on. You know I wouldn't.
Seriously?
Popeyes?
Popeyes.
Popeyes to the rescue again.
Mommy, I prefer this to your chicken anyway.
Oh, no, you didn't.
K-Man doesn't just like that chicken. We love that chicken from Popeyes.
Welcome back. So, there was another interesting case on Friday that we reported on. Again, we were the only media reporting on this case. I think Wendy is close to retirement age now. So I don't know how much longer she will be doing what she does in terms of CNS. I think Wendy has slowed down. I'm a little bit younger than Wendy. Although, to be honest, she's not much older than me. I always thought she was a lot older than me, but she's actually not that much older. And so, I think she does a couple high-profile cases here and there, but there's a lot of cases that they don't cover. Andrel Harris is over at Compass. Poor him. He's spread thin. He's a new father. Congratulations, Andrel. He has, I think he's in law school. He had taken some time off because it's very, very difficult, for him to manage being there for every single case. So he does some cases, the big ones. Tiffany Conley, that's a big case. All the media was there. Even Radio Cayman, who never comes out for cases, they came out for Tiffany Honeychell. Because let's face it, that was the case of the year. So, but normally Radio Cayman isn't there. They don't have, I feel like they don't have the resources. And it is difficult because you sit there all day and you might listen to a case all day and hear witnesses and never get a nugget to become a story. But you still have to kind of follow, what's going on. So somebody just said to me, when Wendy retires, why don't you buy CNS, Cayman News Service? The interesting thing is Wendy has said that she'll probably just give it to some young kids who she thinks can handle it. I'm not sure how well that will work out for her, but the problem with a platform like that is when the platform is largely built around a singular personality, what do you do with it? Like it's difficult for you to say what will happen to CNS. It's going to be like Desmond's platform. Remember Desmond, Cayman Net News? Desmond disappears, Cayman Net News disappears. Because it was so driven by him. And it's hard. People don't understand what it takes to do kind of what we do. So I suspect that when Wendy retires, that will probably be the end of Cayman News Service. Somebody might try to do what Caymanian Times did with Cayman Reporter. He bought it and just shut it down, basically. And then just to have one less competitor. But I don't know how that really benefited him in the end. It was kind of weird because it probably would have died a natural death in any event. Yeah. Same thing with the Compass. It's only a matter of time before the Compass will be a thing of the past. I know y'all might not believe me, but mark the day down that I'm telling you, I've mentioned it before. The Compass will be bought out, and it will probably be bought out with people who are not in the space of news because there's not that many of us left. And they will just shut it down. They'll say, hey, it's only running once a week now anyway. And they'll simply get rid of it. So, it is what it is. But this story now about this young man is very, very interesting. The night that this stabbing happened, now he's moonlighting as a DJ. And I am still unclear about what his immigration status is, because to the best of my knowledge, he is actually here on a work permit. And I think we need some clarification from the immigration people on this, because if he is here on a work permit and he is not married to Caymanian with the rights to work, which they jump on that opportunity as quickly as they can. So I can't say with any certainty this morning what his current status is. But if that is the case, that he is here on a work permit, I do find it very, very interesting that he was moonlighting as a DJ. Now, he has admitted, anybody at immigration enforcement listening to the program this morning, because this man has admitted in court, and it's part of the court record, that he came here in 2009. And since he has been here, he has been working as a DJ. which means that he has been working under the table illegally as a DJ. That is a work permit infraction. Yes. Y'all listening? So there's a whole show that we need to do again about work permit infractions because they are happening way too often. And it seems like our authorities are not equipped to do their job. So somebody just said that he actually has RERC already, which means that he has that Caymanian wife that he is latched onto. Thanks for the confirmation. I don't know how long he's been married, but he came here in 2019. So he hasn't been here that long. And it doesn't take long to find a Caymanian to enter into marriage of convenience. I can assure you of that. Yeah. Trust and believe. So there you go. But he said from day one, he was here working as a DJ to supplement his income. From day one, he wasn't married. So he didn't have RERC from day one. When did he get it? Oh, my sinuses, my apologies, are starting to act up again today. So when did he get RERC? This is the foolishness that's going on in this country, let me tell you. Only God knows. Anyway, he's got an anchor baby on the way, so that'll solidify his position even more. He found himself in a situation where he said there was somebody trying to request a song and got up in his face and whatever, and his response was to pull out a knife and to stab the person 4 times. The judge admitted that the stabbing was serious, albeit not life-threatening. The prosecution didn't provide any evidence that any major organs were impacted by this. However, she still found that the harm that was caused by the stabbing was serious. 2 abdominal stab wounds. One was by the, oh gosh, where was the other one? One was on the side, I think, and one was by, I'm trying to remember where the other one was located. One was a 1.5 centimeter laceration. Oh, they were pretty serious as far as even in terms of the location. Like this was, he could have easily hit an organ, basically. Luckily for him, I guess he didn't. However, the victim was in the hospital recovering for an entire month. That's a pretty serious. Listen, I know people who've been shot and didn't stay in the hospital for a month. He was spared jail time, and I want to talk about this, right? A couple things happen here. Number one, you have to look at the offense that the individual is charged with. So when he was first arrested back in, when was this? Back in January of last year, he was originally arrested for attempted murder. The prosecution decided, obviously, that they could not prove attempted murder. And so they would have brought down the charges to wounding with intent. Those are 2 very different offenses. So from the second they do that, all of a sudden, well, because the burden of proof is on them, they don't have to prove the high level of intent that they would have to with the attempted murder charge. And they also, know that with that comes the possibility of a lighter sentence. I am surprised that he didn't get any jail time. But I sat there and I listened to the judge, this is Judge Cheryl Richards, read her statement, and I can only tell you the logic that she used to explain why he wasn't going to jail. So essentially, she gave him a 3-year jail sentence. There was a number of deductions for the mitigating factors. And then she talked about what some of the aggravating factors would have been. So the prosecution, I think, listed like 5 or 6 aggravating factors. She didn't agree with all 5 or 6, which means that their arguments were not impactful enough on her for her to have found in their favor. And instead, she said 2 aggravating factors. The location, being a liquor license location, that's always considered an aggravating factor. And the fact that a weapon was used. So again, he had this knife, which he claims was used for his work purposes, and he didn't have it there for the purposes of, carrying a weapon, right? So she said he had a previous conviction of assaulting his brother. That one was common assault. She said that was an aggravating factor. She also made note of the fact that there seems to be an escalation of offending behavior. So in other words, every time he comes before the court, it's getting worse. So she added some time to the sentence because of several aggravating factors. So 3 years in custody. She took, quite interestingly enough, into consideration the fact that he had a willingness to pay compensation to the victim and the fact that he has a second child in the way. So apparently he has a 12-year-old child in Jamaica. And now I guess the Caymanian wife, I don't know if it's for her or who, but he's probably pregnant, got a Caymanian pregnant or somebody with status pregnant. And that anchor baby is well on the way. Now, here's the thing. He was supposed to be sentenced around 12:15 in the day. It was put off until 2 o'clock so that he could run to the hospital and get a payment plan in place where he's now responsible for the $21,000 medical bill. Yeah, this dude was in the hospital for a month. $21,000. Now, I found it strange that the court would have allowed him to do that. And I'm going to tell you how I saw this, right? So you come to court for sentencing at 12 o'clock. The last time he was in court was, I want to say at least 3-4 weeks ago. If you really intended to put this payment plan in place, why were you asking for time on the day of? So he didn't get sentenced until 2 o'clock because he was going to run at 12 o'clock now. They originally had him before. Oh, he wants to do this payment, blah, blah, blah. Why didn't he do it before? It appeared to me to be very last minute, which to me doesn't demonstrate a willingness to really pay this bill. This means that on a whim, your lawyer was like, oh, the judge will look at this favorably. Well, why didn't y'all think about this 3 weeks before when you were last there? So the actual hearing, the sentencing hearing was delayed because he had to run to the hospital and get an agreement signed where he said that essentially he would be responsible for the $21,000 bill. So he put this indemnity and payment plan in place with the hospital and then returned to be sentenced. And Judge Richards put a lot of weight on the fact that he was willing to compensate the victim. But to me, that seemed to have been a very last minute willingness. Like it happened the afternoon that he was in court about to be sentenced on Friday. So it was very bizarre, in fact. And I thought, I wouldn't have put so much weight on that, but she seemed to put a lot of weight on it. And I think because she's putting so much weight on it, I mean, a $21,000 bill is a hefty thing for anybody to have to pay, and lost wages of over $4,100. Yeah. I think because she put a lot of weight on it, she also recognized that there's only one way that he could pay it. And that was for him to maintain his job. If she incarcerates him and puts him in jail, well, he's not making no money in jail to be able to pay this back. So, judges have a good deal of discretion, even within sentencing guidelines. And I believe that that's exactly what happened. She was thinking logically. He says he's going to pay this bill. So, if he's going to pay it, then, we have to ensure that he's out there working. She's put him on a payment plan. He's got to pay back the wages and the hospital bill. He has 3 years to pay back the hospital bill and a shorter period of time to do the wages of $4,100 and change. Okay. Well, it's interesting. I can understand some of her reasoning, but I can also understand a lot of you who are like, why is this man not in jail? Stabbing someone 4 times. But again, keep in mind what the prosecution has charged him with. Right? Assault with intent. Even Miss Brenda is listening to the program. Miss Brenda says, the correct charge should have been GBH at the very least. I agree. When the prosecution comes in low, which means less work for them, they come in low end with what they have to end up charging and proving. Of course, the sentencing will be less. And in some instances, there will be no sentencing at all in terms of jail time. So Cameron says knife for scratching records. Child, I don't really know what the knife's for. I don't know what DJ equipment people walk around with. To me, a DJ doesn't need a knife, but there you go. Very, very strange. Cameron's asking if I'm suggesting there's a conspiracy. I'm not suggesting there's a conspiracy. What I'm saying is I think she gave him a lot of credit for being willing to pay back that debt, the hospital bill. And in order for him to do that, he can only do that if he's out there working. And of course, the fact that he has a child in the way seemed to have had some impact on her as well. He also appears to have been remorseful. And I told you guys this already by juxtaposition. Consider the Renato case, for example. That is one of those things where, he got zero consideration for remorse because he showed none. He got zero consideration for pleading guilty because he didn't plead guilty. He has maintained his innocence, even in the face of overwhelming evidence. And the courts will not, you get up to 20% discount, I think, or 1/3 or something, if you plead guilty, an early guilty plea. And if you don't do that, then trust me, you will most certainly not get any of that time off, right? So there was also in his SIR report some concerns about his, what was the term that they used? But they recommended a psychological evaluation. Ooh, honey child. Let me tell you what this means now. The professionals who do it, they use like a formula, like a test, right? That tells you a lot about a person. And they have recommended, they said that he has had childhood trauma. Everybody got childhood trauma, child. Apparently some worse than others. And it impacts people in different ways. So I don't know exactly what kind of childhood trauma he had in Jamaica, but only God knows. Probably was abused and all kind of stuff. They claim everything. Abandoned. I think he said something about a mother abandoning him and leaving him when he was young. And there's always something. Right? But they actually said that they would recommend a psychological evaluation. And so he's under what's called a supervision order, which includes the court being able to supervise him. He's on probation for 2 years. So anything else he does within that 2-year period that lands him back before the court that he's then found guilty of, this will now mean jail time for him. So he'll get the 2 years jail time plus whatever else he's in court for. So he needs to tread lightly for the next 2 years. Having said that, they recommended that he undergo a psychological evaluation, which I think is very, very interesting. He's to undergo anger management courses and any other courses that that department would recommend for him. The judge says he couldn't exercise self-control and that his conduct was disproportionate to the provocation. So even if somebody walks up to you, yo, brother, why didn't you play my song? I told you to play my song already. You don't take out a knife and stab him 4 times. That's what she means when she says it's disproportionate, right? It just doesn't make any sense. It's not like that's the kind of thing you say, child man, go away. You don't stab somebody 4 times. So clearly some issues. She said that he had other options that he could have chosen, which he decided not to. And so there you have it, honey child. The poor victim says he's still afraid of the defendant. I guess they might run into each other. So he also has an order to stay 20 yards from the victim. Basically, she said, if you walk on the street and you see him on one side, you get on the next side. The victim lost his job. He's been financially and physically and emotionally impacted by it. So, the victims provide a victim impact statement, and that has to be taken in conjunction with the SIR and all of the other facts. But judges cannot give a victim's impact statement too much weight. They have to give it an appropriate amount of weight. So even he works for apparently Sprint Courier Services. They provided him with a reference saying he was a good worker. And apparently that weighed on the judge's mind as well, that his employers claim he's a good worker. I was like, okay. Well, we'll see, honey child. If he fails to pay the hospital bill or the wages, there will be incarceration attached to that. So, of course, the hospital bill being more. If he fails to pay that, he's looking at over 4 years imprisonment. And the other one, I can't remember what that one was in default, but it's not quite as much. So really, really sad situation. And I'm curious to know whether or not last year he was actually already, sorry, my sinus is irritating me. If he was already married or if that is a more recent development. Good morning, caller. You're live on air today. Are you trying to call the show? No,
I'm not calling the
show. All right. Well, every day I have a show until 10:30.
Until when?
10:30, at least.
All right, and I'll call you after that.
All right. Oh, honey child. My number is like the 411 for help. Somebody did you something wrong. They hurt your feelings. Apparently, you're going to call me. So sometimes I don't know if they're calling to get on the show, or if they're calling to tell me about their baby daddy drama, or somebody who stole their work permit money, or, the list is so long of the calls that I get about all sorts of stuff. Landlord tenants disputes. Government, government did you wrong. You're calling me. Everybody calls my number. Caller, good morning.
Good morning, caller. I'm calling you to say something about a baby mama. Are you surprised?
Oh my goodness.
Good morning, good morning, Sandy, and to your listeners. I caught what you were saying about this this sentencing, but I missed some of it. So maybe what I might say will be you've already covered. Does it appear that sentence was appropriate, really?
Well,
you don't have to answer that.
I mean, there are people who are questioning it and believe that the prosecution should be seeking to appeal the sentence.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
I mean, I think she justified it with her. And again, given that judges have this wide discretion, I think that she did justify it in her reading of her judgment. Whether you agree with it or not is a different situation.
Yeah, it's what. Exactly, so let me just comment on that, because I mean it is important. Last week you covered a little bit about the disparity in sentencing sometimes, and I think that this one I was a little bit surprised that he didn't go to jail. Now from I only read what you put on the website, which is quite accurate. If you look at, he stabbed this man 4 times. The altercation apparently was not really out of something. It was like the guy was bothering him, with his work or something. You stab a guy 4 times.
Yes.
He and there are all those details of how the person has been impacted. He could only work part-time, and he lost about more than $4,000 in wages. And then I believe now he can't work because he has been away
was
from.
actually off of work for 2 months and ended up losing his job.
Mm.
So he spent 1 entire month in the hospital, and then the second month, he was still recouping at home and lost.
Exactly, and then according to the sentencing, I believe the starting period should have been 3 years custodial sentence.
Yes.
And then you move it up or down depending on what's aggravating. In my view, there are more aggravating circumstances by far than any mitigating circumstances, because the only mitigation really significantly was, okay, he has agreed to pay and he's paying, and he is what was the other one that where he has shown remorse? Okay, fine, but he also has a previous conviction involving violence against a brother.
Mm-hmm.
So if you ask me, if the starting period was 3 years custodial sentence, and then you move it up or down depending on mitigating circumstances, to me, if he got lucky, maybe he could have gotten 3 years or maybe 2 years custodial sentence. But to just say, well, look, he's not going to jail at all, that's almost like some of those firearms cases. You are found with a firearm, and because they say they are exceptional circumstances, and then they say you are not going to jail, while others are going to jail for 7 years and 10 years. But let me relate. So I disagree with the sentence. I think there's something we don't know about that. Oh, by the way, that little thing about him going to hospital to pay, I think that's part of the lawyering. You want the judge at the time of sentencing to see that this person is. I think it was planned. I don't think that it was like they didn't have time to pay before. I think they were trying to make sure it happens in the glare of the judge, and then it can influence her. But let me relate this to the Ms. Cayman.
It would influence her. Regardless, because she would have, she entered those agreements into evidence, and she made it very, very clear that if he defaults in any way, and the hospital now has an obligation to notify the court if there is a default, so that he'll be sent to jail. That is something that could have been arranged beforehand. I was a bit confused about why it was so last minute.
Yeah, you're right. It could have been arranged beforehand. They just did that for the drama and hoping that it could influence the judge. But let me close on the relation to that. Why I raise that really is in relation to Ms. Cayman. If the system operates in a manner that is fair from case to case, I'm now asking the question whether we can expect a jail sentence for Ms. Cayman. Because in my view, what this guy did.
This is a very good question. However,
yeah,
I think if Miss Cayman gets a jail sentence, it will hinge on the following: on the fact that she has assaulted police officers not once, not twice, but 3 times.
Okay.
Right, and the courts do not look upon. I don't know what I'd have to look up in the penal code what sort of penalties attached to assaulting a police officer, but I know for a fact that the courts do not look upon that sort of situation of assaulting an officer very, very lightly.
Oh, you're right. You're absolutely right about that, because assaulting a police officer is a particularly aggravating circumstance. So there would really be some issue there. But I think in my view, if I were the judge, let us put it this way. In my view, if the system operates properly, I would be surprised if Ms. Cayman gets a jail term, or at least put it this way, I would not be surprised, but I will think that it is not congruent. It doesn't add up if somebody who can use a knife and stab somebody in circumstances where they could have killed the other person that they would not go to jail at all, and if Miss Cayman will go to jail even for 2 to 3 months and so on. But then you see the people who are judging the two cases are different. I think Miss Cayman is before Magistrate Miss McFarland, but summary court, yeah, and then he is in the High Court. But I think it is something that the public, I think, needs to think about and see whether the sentence of Miss Cayman as compared to this will add up. I just thought that I should throw that in, and the thought-provoking idea, and then we'll see how it turns out. But by the way, I think Miss Cayman, what she should do now, own up for what she did, and I think if she does the right things, she could come out later on as a role model for redemption and correcting her behavior. And so let her look to that. I know right now it's very hard for her, because she has lost this crown and everything and so on. But I think if they can not overpunish her, if the government can allow her, I don't know if she will keep the 70,000 scholarship. I know that they are going to cut her stipend.
Yeah, she keeps
but they should also
except the stipend, obviously, because she's no longer Miss Cayman.
Yeah,
So
and I think that will
actually,
assist.
she doesn't give anything back.
Yeah, well, yeah. And I think that's fair. And let her look forward and do penance. Once you do penance and you move forward, you could become a role model at some point, and you look back and say, you know what, it looked so bad at that time. But there can be redemption, once you work at it yourself and the society helps you to do that, and you get all the expert help that you can get. Thank you, Sandy. I thank you very much. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Okay, yes. And this is the thing, and I don't know how her lawyers are advising her or what sort of advice they are giving her. But if I were her lawyer, I would be telling her now to fall on your sword, girl. Fall on your sword. Your defiance will be the death of you. Listen very, very carefully, folks. Yeah. Your defiance will be the death of you. And she has maintained her innocence even after the conviction. That is not something the courts will find favorable. They will seek to punish you more because you refuse, just like Renato. It's the same basic principle. You refuse at any point to accept accountability, which means that, as the caller rightfully said, you are not on the path of redemption. Well, the fact that she has done it multiple times also means that she's not on the path of redemption. And she continues to do it. Now, she was still on probation. I kind of think with this young man, and this is an important distinction, folks. This is where I tell y'all, you've got to pay attention to the details of these cases, and that's why I do my best. I'm no lawyer, to be clear. I have a law degree, but this is why you have to pay attention to the details of these cases. Yes, because the details will make a difference between a sentence versus a suspended sentence versus whatever. So keep in mind that although this man was previously convicted of common assault, striking his father, it was a situation where he claims he was defending his mother or some foolishness, but he was not on probation. Tiffany was on probation when this other incident took place. So her previous convictions, which were not recorded because they were trying to give her a second and third chance, are now recorded and they are live, which means that judge, that magistrate who happens to have been Foldats, would go back now and sentence her for those. So Magistrate McFarland has the right and the obligation to now, apparently Foldats told her just deal with all of it. She will also be sentencing her for those previous convictions as well. So I don't know what the magistrate will do, but I wouldn't be surprised if Tiffany got some jail time. I wouldn't be surprised probably either direction. But because she now has previous convictions, previous common assault, to assaulting police officers, etc., all of those offenses become live offenses. They're now guilty. And the judge has to sentence her for those as well as this new matter. So, yeah, honey child, she could be facing a situation. I was trying to have a look at the sentencing for assaulting police. I don't know offhand what that comes with. Hold on. Let me see if I can quickly ask a lawyer. Uh-huh. Let me see. I'd have to, the sentencing guidelines, which are available on the judicial website, those are good things to become familiarized with. So under the section called guidance, there's a sentencing guidelines. And this has all of the sentencing guidelines, everything from violent offenses, burglary, causing death by driving, breach of curfew, sexual offenses, money laundering, the sentencing guidance from October 2015, tariffs and guidelines, public order offenses. Let me see if it falls under, I don't know if it's considered a public order offense or if that's actually, let me see. What does assaulting police fall under? Causing fear, provocation, harassment, unlawful assembly, rioting. No, this is not where it's at. So it's probably under violent offenses. Let me see. So this is murder, common assault. Yes, assaulting police. Here we go. Here we go, Bobo and TDs. This is where it's at. Okay. So if I were to really have a full discussion on this, this is what we would have to look at, because this is what the judge is going to look at. These are the sentencing guidelines for violent offenses. So she's down at the bottom. Common assault, pages 24 to 25. Assaulting a police officer, 26 to 27. They should have this hyperlink so you can just jump to those areas. But anyway, child, government and their antiquated documents. This needs to be typed up and done over. All right, let me go down to that page. So 20, starting point, assaulting, occasional. Okay, no, we're down here. Common assault. So this is determining the offense categories. So this is how the judges have to go through this, folks. For y'all to understand how this works, it's really quite important, right? So the judges have to look at, I'm just going to open this up in another window, what they call the culpability, higher harm, lower harm. So higher harm is injury or apprehension of injury, which is serious to the extent of the offense must normally be present. Lower harm is injury or apprehension of injury, which is less serious. So the judge will look at the degree of harm. This is the first step, determining the offense category. Then culpability, high culpability, things like using a weapon, headbutting. She did that. Yeah, she headbutted. So that is an example, they say, of use of a weapon. You're using your head as a weapon. Intention to commit more serious harm than actually resulted from the offense. Deliberate targeting of vulnerable victims. Well, I don't know that these people are particularly vulnerable, but anything about the age, personal characteristics or circumstances, not necessarily. Prolonged or repeated assault. Hostility to the victim based on race, religion, so none of that. Revenge attack. So this could be seen as a revenge attack, like revenge for breaking out with me, maybe. So those are some examples of what would put it in the higher culpability. And then you have lower culpability, which includes being in the gang, like a lower gang member, greater degree of provocation than normal, lack of premeditation, excessive force, and self-defense. So she doesn't really meet, in my opinion, and again, I'm not a judge or a magistrate or even a lawyer. This is my humble opinion. I believe she's in the higher culpability section now. She does not meet the criteria for lower culpability, right? She was not acting in self-defense. She went to the victim's house to assault them. It wasn't a situation where she like ran into the victim. She took steps to put herself in that situation, which means that there was definitely premeditation on her part. She went there with intent as far as I'm concerned. So step number 2 is starting point and category range. So category 1, greater harm. Category 2, common harm. So it says serious injury, but normally be present and lower culpability or lesser harm. And category 3, lesser harm and lower culpability. You're looking at a community order for category 3. I think that she is looking at higher culpability, right? And category 2 for greater harm. And that's 3 months custody, depending on the range. And then it says a fine and 6 months custody, depending on the category range. So it's possible. Jail time is very possible. And remember now, it's not just this last incident. It's the ones before that, which involve assaulting other people, including police. So let's move on to what it says. And aggravating factors, location of the offense, timing of the offense, victim providing a public service, so on, attempts to dispose or conceal weapon, Listen, additional mitigating factors, remorse, if it was a single blow, and if it was an isolated incident, she has none of those in her favor. So she's demonstrated zero remorse. In fact, not only has she demonstrated, oh, my apologies, Jonathan said he still can't see it. Not only has she not demonstrated any remorse, but she has also, on top of it, after her conviction, right, done something the court said not to do in relation to identifying the victim. She has since put up that she has not, there's 2 sides to the story, which she's still maintaining her innocence. So if the prosecution had any sense, and who's prosecuting this case? Oh, the lady who is prosecuting it, she's actually on maternity leave. So another Caribbean person has taken it over now, a young man. I don't know his name, sorry. But anyway, he would be demonstrating all these social media posts that she's been putting up on Instagram and all over the place to say, hey, this girl has demonstrated no remorse. It was more than a single blow, and it was not an isolated incident. She continues to harass these people. She's been sending messages and whatever, threatening them. She has demonstrated zero remorse and all these other things. Honestly, I could see jail in her future. Now let's look at assaulting police. So this is under the police law. It's an offense. 2 years imprisonment is the maximum penalty, right? $5,000. Again, the degree of harm, greater harm, lesser harm, culpability. So again, they're looking at a lot of the same factors. And assault of a police, the starting point is 12 months custody for greater harm. I think, again, she's probably in category 2 in terms of harm and culpability here. 6 months custody. So I think that's probably another. And again, all the same things, aggravating offenses. She did it at, the detention center. She has just refused to, Bobo taking over on radio. Oh, Lord. I think we need to, there's something going on with the radio. I don't know if Chuck has adjusted my time. All right. So anyway, all right. So yeah, so I mean, listen, it is very possible that she could be going to jail. And again, I think the things that will work the most against her is the fact that the child can't learn. She keeps doing it over and over again. This is the third police officer now. So the judge is going to have to look at every one of these, right? The other one, she actually kicked them in the groin. That can cause a serious issue to men. I mean, you could be impacting their ability to reproduce. You know, that's not nice to kick somebody in the nuts. Yeah. Remember, that's kicking them in the nuts, not kissing them in the nuts. There's a big difference. So, I don't know. We'll see. But I think the thing that will work against her the most is her continued defiance. I mean, her lawyer should really be talking to her, but you know, it doesn't seem like she's the type of person that you can really give advice to. So we'll see. But this document is a useful document. Y'all should go read it. I'll send you, somebody asked for me to send them the sentencing guidelines. I most certainly will do that because I do think that you can learn a lot from knowing kind of what the judges take into consideration. So every single case will turn on its very unique set of circumstances and facts. And one of the things that the lawyers do, they call it a MFS, a mention for sentencing, is that they actually have a hearing where they argue all of these things. So the prosecution in the case with the young man, the DJ with the stabbing, is they actually argued for a greater sentence because they said there were 5 things like that were aggravating. His family members were there, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that those things, the judge did not accept in the end that those were particularly aggravating. She only, I think, out of the 5 or 6 or whatever that the prosecution tried to argue, she only really agreed with, I believe, 2 or 3 of them, right? So the others she didn't find were compelling. And it all comes down to the strength of legal arguments. So the prosecution, just like the defense attorney, can get up and say anything, but who is making the point better and so on really can make a big difference. So I understand that we're back on air. Sorry about that, folks. So anyway, I think that, and thank you, Chuck. He said he's adjusted the time because we this year, the station has given us some extra time to 10:30, and the days that I can use it, I will definitely use it. The days that I can't, I will certainly let Chuck know because some days I got to get out of here early. I got to skedaddle. So yes, I think that the the lawyers definitely make different types of arguments. So so he's paying, going back to the young man now with the medical bill, he's actually going to be paying the medical bill, the $21,000 over 3 years on a graduated payment plan. So it starts out at $500 a month for the first year. Then he goes to $700 a month for the second year and $925 a month for the third year. And he has to have that paid off in that period of time. So, you know, I think the judge is really, really trying to ensure that that's paid back because that is a huge burden when you think about it. That is a significant burden on. Oh gosh, my apologies about my sinuses. That is a significant burden on the victim. You know, you've had all these injuries, whatever. Now you're responsible for paying this $21,000 medical bill. I had to wonder if he didn't have insurance. I found myself questioning that as well as to why he was not being covered by insurance, which is kind of crazy. But anyway, all we can do is bring you the news, folks, and tell you why some of these things might actually happen. It's a good idea to get a copy of the Penal Code, which is 144 pages, but it includes a lot of offenses in there so that you can know, how offenses are defined, what they mean, et cetera, et cetera. Yes? Okay. So remember, folks, I am not a lawyer. I do professional development training. So I do teach. Yes. So I take my little bit of legal knowledge along with those skills and I try to explain it in a way that hopefully makes sense to you all and you can walk away understanding things a little bit more clearly. So Ms. Brenda says, I know matters almost identical to hers, and those people kept getting bail and no jail time. So let's wait and see what happens with her. So those are people, Ms. Brenda, to be clear, who have assaulted in totally separate incidents, police officers, and still no jail? Huh. That's interesting. Because, like I said, the court does not take kindly to people assaulting the police. Malika says, you're right, Sandy. She almost definitely would go to jail for the breaching of probation. So again, be very, very clear. She had 2 previous cases before the court and got an opportunity to walk away with those. Nothing recorded, on probation. She was told to do certain things, which I don't think she ever did, including her psychological help. She never got the counseling and whatever that was ordered. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. So Sandra in the comment section says, that's right. There's attempted murder. Jacure got 6 years in the Netherlands for the same thing. These judges must be crazy, or it's something in the water. I think sometimes the prosecution is just lazy. This is just my personal opinion, that the prosecution is lazy. And so with attempted murder, they've got to prove a particular mens rea that they're not prepared to prove. Now, is it not the case, and this is my ignorance of the law, perhaps Baliki can help me with criminal law. I know in the US, they do it alternatively. So they'll charge you with the higher offense, attempted murder, and they'll say in the alternative that you don't find the mental element required for alternative murder, then let's go with GBH, or let's go with, wounding to what's the offense? Wounding with intent or whatever. So they put it there so that the option is to find them guilty of the higher offense if it's made out. And if it's not made out, but I find that in the courts here, they don't seem to do that. Is that something in the English legal criminal system that they just don't do? It seems a bit strange to me. Ms. Moya says, I feel the way the judge did the judgment is it maximized justice. As if she made him go to jail, then he'd not be able to pay the victim back for the large hospital bill, yes, and loss of wages. That's true. And that would have probably a more lasting impact on the victim than even the initial assault when you think about it. Because the initial assault, you can't undo that. He's assaulted, whatever, right? But to then have this guy strapped with this bill, and almost certainly this gentleman might be facing deportation, which a lot of you think he should still be. But remember now, apparently he must have married to Kim Anion, so he has RERC. So, and a baby on the way. It's not going to be that easy to get rid of him. Y'all need to start thinking hard about these marriages and these RERC business, because now they got these Bill of Rights and human rights, right? Right to family life. So Moya goes on to say, as he would not be able to pay it from prison, but by putting him on probation, it allowed him to work and pay back the money, but also keep him on a very short leash. Because if he messes up in any way, he goes to jail, but the victim does need to be compensated first. And I think that's exactly it. Ms. Siobhan says, unfortunately, a lot of people don't take responsibility for their actions. Brenda believes that she's going to get a suspended sentence. We'll see. That would be a lucky day for her. And I don't, again, think that she is. The other key thing about this guy is he has, according to the SIR, demonstrated remorse. We don't have the SIR in Tiffany's case yet completed, but she has never demonstrated remorse. So it depends on what she goes in there and says in her SIR. But if she maintains her position of innocence and the fact that she has done nothing wrong, she's looking at jail for sure. So Ms. Brenda, some of it will definitely be on her shoulders now. Well, all of it's been on her shoulders, but you know what I mean. Marshall says she deserves some jail time. Maybe that will get her ass straight. What a mess. I think she's likely to get a prison sentence for breach of probation, but I would not be surprised if she did not go to jail for the new offense. She shall see, since judges can be unpredictable. So as Brenda said, the victim needs to bring a civil suit against him. Well, I don't know what else he would get compensated for other than his medical bills. And that's already been agreed that he will pay for that and the wages. Perla says, those that are left in Cayman, I'll bet you these people are not paying health bills. How come one individual has to pay others' escape since 2020? I'm not really sure I understand that, Brenda. I mean, Perla. All right, so some other comments. Okay, yes. So people are talking about the traffic situation being far less than it is because school is out, calling for some staggering of school hours. Another person says jail would jolt Tiffany into reality. Yes, let's see. So this one says, honestly though, Sandra, you know that scene in Game of Thrones where, is it Cersei Lannister? I actually have not watched a single episode of Game of Thrones. I know it might sound shocking, but I have not. Is forced to walk through the city naked, and people were cursing her and throwing rotten food and stuff at her, while with the nun yelling, shame, shame. Oh, I have seen that scene though. I think that's the only way Tiffany will learn. Oh, Jesus. Something like that needs to happen because Cersei couldn't listen either and just did her own thing. Well, public humiliation does not seem to work with Tiffany because, yeah, it just doesn't seem to work. So I don't know. All right. So there you go. Okay. Let me see what else we got here. This person says, good morning. Do you still offer classes in QuickBooks for bookkeeping, or know anyone who can assist someone? I don't, because I don't have time for that, unfortunately. So I don't do any training really anymore. Okay. Let me just see. Okay. All right. So those are some of the things that are trending in terms of headlines. Let's see here now. Okie dokie. Pain and suffering. I mean, I guess he can try. You know, I find like a lot of people here don't really sue for that sort of stuff. That seems to be more of an American concept. But you guys might want to call recover and see. The thing about it though is this young man probably doesn't have the means to pay. You know, there might be an argument. Contributory negligence is a thing. So not just contributory negligence like what we were talking about the other day, but there's also another principle in law. Help me, Baliki, with this one, where you're responsible for the acts of your employees. What's the legal terminology? It is called vicarious liability. There we go. So one could make an argument that Everglow Bar is vicariously liable for hiring this young man. And so in law, the people that you sue are the people that have money. You don't sue people who don't have any money, or you have no way of possibly collecting that money, because then, you're kind of wasting your own money and your own resources doing so. But he already had a conviction for common assault. You could maybe make a case that Everglow Bar should have known that this young man walked around with a knife on the job. Might be a trigger, might be a problem. So who you sue here is not the young man who's already paying your medical bills and probably after that has no money left, but you sue the bar, the establishment. Uh-huh. So some of you mentioned that you think he's going to leave Cayman because the financial burden might be too much on him. Somebody said that about him. This is what someone said. This was over the weekend on Saturday. Good evening, Sandy. Hope all is well. In regards to DJ Guns, he has to pay $25,000 to HSA. Well, that's $21,000. And the victim, yes. And this man is on a work permit, right? Well, apparently he has RERC. So maybe that changes things a little bit. There was no order of his passport to be handed in to make sure he doesn't run from Cayman. He has to pay $1,020 per month to HSA and the victim. And he has a second child on the way. Plus pay rent and food. What makes them believe he will stay here unless he's married to Cayman? Ding, 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 ding. And that might not hold him either. I think you will learn. I think he will leave after 2 or 3 months, because it's going to be, he's going to be working just to pay for this and bills piling in. Just saying. Good morning, caller.
Morning, Cuzzy.
How you doing?
I'm not bad.
Good.
I think the stabbing somebody because they're irritating you about a song is just unbelievable.
Well, that's what she said. It was completely disproportionate. I mean, it's crazy.
Well, I mean, it's like almost hard to believe that somebody could be so stupid. But one of the things that I want to mention as well is you were talking about holding his employer responsible. Well, it depends on what kind of knife he was carrying, because and he was in a nightclub. He was in a nightclub, right?
In a bar, yes.
Yeah. I think when they changed the penal code way back when, it was to prevent certain violent acts from happening around the vicinity of bars and restaurants and the cinema, when the cinema was in in that Marquee Center, I think it's called.
And that's
so
why those locations are considered aggravating sentences when assaults and stuff happen at those locations.
So I think after 6 p.m.
Yes,
is when that legislation kicks in.
Yeah.
But it's lawful to carry a knife with a blade that's under 4 inches. I don't know whether his was longer than 4 inches or not, which would have been a separate offense. But I just find it crazy that you could react that way to someone irritating you about a song.
Yeah,
So that's just unbelievable.
Like I said,
doesn't even sound like him, man.
Yeah, well, like I said, we have people who have no self-control. They have impulse issues, and they're overreacting to everything. And so that is problematic. A lot of people overreacting even with their words and the things that they say. So
yeah,
I think we need to be very, very careful what it is that we're importing. I think we need people to pay more attention. There should be a better vetting process when it comes to the caliber of individuals that we're letting cross the thresholds of our ports.
At the very minimum, when they do atrocious things, get rid of them.
Exactly.
At the very minimum.
But you see, the Bill of Rights, this is why this anchor baby and anchor mamas, women and men, is a whole situation now, because they purposely marry Caymanians to be able to stay in this jurisdiction and get that added protection. And this is a very dangerous situation. Even the cost now of once you've done your RERC, you've gone your 7 years to get status, is only $1,000. That should be at least $10,000. We are giving it away.
Yeah, but
we are giving it away.
Yeah. Well,
we need to raise our standards.
Well, I say amen 1,000 times to that, because that's part of. I've been complaining about that for a long time. And when you hear me complain about the commissioner of police for way back in early 2000s, I'm complaining about the commissioner of police who has decided to ignore the law. But nothing happens to that class of people, right? See, these are this is how these double standards come back to haunt us. And when you hear me complaining about the amending of Section 17, trust me when you see the negative side effects of that, okay, then you're going to understand how people are misusing the law to protect themselves in ways that wasn't really what the law was designed to do. And the law, like you said, using a person's head to buck someone as a weapon, the law can be used as a weapon against people, right? And so what happens is you can get in positions of authority in which you're essentially seems unreachable. And what compounds the problem even more is that the public will sit back and do nothing about it, because they think, well, nothing's going to happen to them, so I can't make a difference. Yes, you can. If you did something, if you did something more than just talk about it, you say that you're going to do something about it, you can make a difference. Don't psych yourself out. That's foolishness. So that's my thoughts for the day.
All right, appreciate it, Danny. Have a good one.
You too.
Well, folks, it's some very serious consideration. Sandra says, in the UK, our mother country, any jail time over 2 years, it's deportation to your homeland. Marriage or anchor baby, you are on the deportation plane. We need to adopt that policy, please. Works, are you paying attention? Even a suspended sentence. You might not go to jail, but if it's suspended, I think that should count for deportation purposes as well. Sure. Miss Loretta says it was good seeing you and Princess Gigi. Thank you. Nice to see you two on Saturday. Strong Will says Tiffany needs to get some jail time so she could meet up with Eve. Lord Jesus. Balika clarifies that in the English system, not sure about the US, you can convict a person of a lesser offense even if it is not charged. For example, if you're charged with wounding, you can be convicted of common assault instead, even if it was not originally charged. Well, then I'm at a loss for why I don't see that happening, because I never really see that happening in our courts. So Ms. Brenda says, in addition to pain and suffering, future medical bills and long-term effects of the injuries, well, the judge did mention that there was nothing put before her. And again, this is a matter for the prosecution, but there was nothing put before her to say that there were any long-lasting implications, health implications of these injuries. That's where the prosecution, if there was, should have really done their job and put that to the judge, because she can't jump to those conclusions unless there's evidence before her. So this is very, very important to understand the limitations put on the judge. The evidence has to be put to her. So sometimes we know certain things about defendants and whatever, and if that doesn't come out in court, the court doesn't know it. The court can't act upon what they do not know. Sandra says DJ Guns will be gone in a few months and the victim plus HSA will be out of pocket and he'll return to somewhere in America. He retained a damn lawyer. Well, he never came from America, but we will see. 936-2626, 936 Bobo is the telephone number. We'll take one or two more calls as we get into the 10:30 hour, which means that we'll be ending the program. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Hey, Sandy, it's me, Chuck. How are you?
Hey, not bad, Chuck. How are you?
Not bad. I was just catching the tail end of the conversation, and I was just chiming in a little bit because, music is my industry, and I hate to see things like this happen. Not the first time hearing of it and seeing it and just, shaking my head, but two quick thoughts onto it. One is, this is what happens when you have inexperienced people in our industry who don't know and understand the vigors of it. Because playing music sounds simple enough. Yes, it is in certain aspects. But when you start dealing with alcohol and people requesting things and very, very adamant about it, they want to hear something. They feel that if they don't hear it, it's a disrespect to them. Then you don't know how to deal with that because you are not seasoned, not trained. Because with a lot of loud noise, there is some communication there. And most times, if somebody asks me something, I'm very honest. Either the establishment either says I can't play that or I don't have it. A lot of times, for me personally, all of my music has been clean for, 16, 17 years. I rarely play anything with curse words or derogatory statements, those types of things in it, because that's just not me. And so that eliminates that. So that's my first rule of thumb is, hey, if it has something in it that deals with that, the answer is no.
Right.
And also it evokes the industry and the place that you are. Some places want particularly that. So you're going to get a little bit more. Right. You're going to get a little bit more aggressiveness with certain songs because songs do invoke emotions.
Yes.
They do put you in a certain mindset. It do put you in a certain mind frame. You can be super happy or, this could be a breakup song and it, I need to hear this now. I'm feeling hurt, but I'm in a happy place, but I want to hear this now. You may get somebody who's feeling that. And therefore you're going to calm them down, say, hey, I'm going to get to it in a few minutes. If they come back, you see that you have somebody who's adamant about it. And sometimes in my industry, we'll have different versions of songs. So if you want a song from an artist who's super, super popular, I may have a clean version of it. Oh, I don't want to hear the clean version, but that's the version I have. So that's what you're going to get. And then on the other side, I've been in locations where people have pulled out the connections for the speakers and the music and killed the party. Well, if I can't hear it, nobody's going to hear. So you have those types of different scenarios. You have to know how to deal with them. Getting angry and pushing that is going to push the envelope. So I've watched DJs literally start fights in the club because they refuse to play music. So it's not an easy thing, and it does require a lot of finesse in a lot of ways. How many ways can you tell somebody no when they have alcohol in them? That's kind of what it boils down to in a lot of ways. And on the same time, when I play, I don't drink, so I'm the clear one. If I tell people, I say, if you go to work, do you go to work and drink? No, because you're there to work. So a lot of younger DJs and DJs who haven't had that professionalism over the years, they go in. It's a party for them. They go to party rather than go to work. And that's a big distinction. When alcohol is in any situation,
Yes.
it's altering. Doesn't care whether it's driving, whether it's playing music, whether you're flipping hamburgers or you're a surgeon. Alcohol is going to impair you no matter what you do. So if you're having a bad set, the computer's not working, the music sounds bad, somebody's asking you for something, and you are not in a good working environment, and you're not going to be your best. So somebody's going to come and ask for something. Oh, you're playing terrible music. Now it's a personal attack at you. Now, if you're not professional enough, you're going to say, oh, well, this is the... Then you get in an argument with a client who is under the alcohol influence. They close your property, your laptop, throw it on the ground. Then it's a fight. But who's at fault? You because you're working, and they because they attack you. So you have all of these things that happen in a very fast pace. But if you're professional, you've seen this before, you know how to deal with it. If you're not, you're going to get swallowed into a scenario which knives pull out. I've seen gunshots fired in clubs when I'm playing. So it's not the first time, but you have to know how to alleviate. I've literally been in a club and heard somebody play a gunshot. First thing I do, I pull out my stuff and I play Frank Sinatra. I play the slowest song. Lights come on immediately. Any sort of I'm with the bouncer and I'm like, hey, if you hear me cut the music, lights come on immediately. If you hear me say something, I have keywords that I let bouncers know when I'm in big clubs. If you hear this means it's a fight by the door. If you hear me play this song, that means something is coming. You need to be on your toes. Because I've been there. I see that. I know that. So you have to be aware. You have to almost preempt for any possible thing when it comes to nightclubs because you just don't know.
Right.
But that's my quick insight into it without hearing all. Mind you, I haven't heard all of the conversation.
Yes.
I just heard a little bit of it. But knowing what I know, it can go from 0 to 100 real quick. And usually it's some sort of grievous bodily damage. It's just scary things.
Yes. And I mean, I'm glad you called in, Chuck, because I do think that these are some important points that you've made. That again, this isn't just a fly by the seat of your pants type of profession. People should be trained in more ways than one. And some of it has to do with the training of knowing how to deal with a potentially, irate individual who, like you say, could be under the influence of pretty much anything. How to de-escalate a situation as opposed to pulling out a knife and stabbing somebody 4 times. And the judge did admit in this particular case that his response to the situation, although his lawyer argued some form of provocation, the judge did say, listen, it was disproportionate. So again, the provocation, this guy never put hands on you. It was never at that level where your response should have been any sort of physical attack, much less a physical attack with what could very well have been a deadly weapon. So
Exactly.
I think this guy was just really, really fortunate that his injuries were not any more serious and that they were serious enough. And the judge said they were serious injuries and that in fact, he did not have any major organs that were impacted by those stab wounds.
Yeah, and that's just the luck of the draw that he didn't kill him.
Yeah,
over
right.
music.
Because you've seen people with just one stab wound and it just goes into the right or the wrong artery, as the case may be, and all of a sudden you've got a dead person on your hand. This guy got stabbed 4 times.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm still at a loss for how they went from attempted murder, which originally what he was arrested on suspicion of, all the way down. They beat that charge down to assault with intent.
And one of the things I want to point out also to all of the owners of businesses, the number one thing you want to do is the same way how you separate the bartenders from the patrons, separate the DJ from the patrons. I make it a real simple thing. Even with COVID, I have a app you can scan and send me requests without coming to the booth. You have to think ahead. Say, okay, how do I alleviate somebody from getting to that point? Because getting into a DJ booth should be, in the old days, it was a process. You had to either know the DJ, you had to know the bounce. They had to be sure of who you were to make a request, or you would say, "Oh, can you send a request to the DJ for me for this?" Make it so that you alleviate that equation, because 99% of the time, it's like, if I'm doing my job, and I'm not saying flipping burgers, but if I'm working making sandwiches, do you come behind there while I'm making the sandwiches to tell me, what you want? No, you take an order. So you send the request. You don't go into it, because I'm trying to find the next song. Think of this. I'm trying to find the next song. I got 10 seconds before it'll go dead. And I have say 50 people in here partying. All of a sudden it's dead. Then I'm going to look bad. I'm not doing my job. Now you're trying to talk to me, and I'm not seasoned enough to hold a conversation, do all of this. So it's overwhelming for a young DJ who's never done this before. That's why it's usually that they're working with somebody. Very, very rarely you see a unknown person by themselves, because they're supposed to be the entertainment. You're supposed to be seasoned, but you got to learn on the job almost. So as I said, there's no school for this. When we came in, when I say us older DJs, we had 3 or 4 people that we were with. So somebody's like, okay, go talk to them. I'll do this.
Right.
But nowadays, with laptops and computers, it's just one person.
Yep. And everybody thinks that they can be a DJ. Trust me. That is one profession that has gone downhill. Listen, I have a little board. I feel like I could run out there and DJ. That's just how it is. Everybody's like, oh, just get the equipment, and all of a sudden you're DJ.
I got iTunes, and I got one speaker and Bluetooth or whatever, and all of a sudden, and it is an art form, and sadly enough, it's a dying art form, because people don't take the time to have these courses. We used to get together and look through music, make sure the music was correct for what you're doing. Now it's just show up and you have, a laptop with 1,000 songs, but you don't play 1,000 songs in a night. So, you have to be a mathematical equation. Each song is 4 minutes, so you got 14 minutes, you got 14 songs in an hour. You may have to drop 2 because you're talking. So you have all of these little things, and then say, okay, well, you know what? If I play the clean versions, those are probably 3.5. So you do the math to make sense of what you're doing, and then you give equation for the space. So, okay, you know what? I'm going to a soca event. Soca music. I don't go to a soca event and expect to play hip hop and dance hall and stuff like that, because I know what I'm going to expect. So as a DJ, you almost say, okay, and I'm assuming this young man, this wasn't his first time being there, so he knew what he was, and he knew what he was doing. So it seems out of character and out of place that you go to zero to stabbing somebody over music. That makes me think, in my world, that there's something underlying
with
there.
him. And of course, it would make sense then as to why the SIR, right, actually said, the professionals who did that he needs a psychological evaluation.
Yeah.
And the judge said, you're escalating behavior. You've already assaulted your brother. That was common assault. You go from common assault to stabbing somebody. The next incident, what's the next one? Murder? So there is indeed an escalation of his behavior that even the courts had to admit is concerning. So even in her judgment, she said the escalation in your behavior, this was something that the SIR picked up on, and it is concerning. And they have recommended a psychological evaluation, and you have to undergo anger management training and other things. So we'll see.
Right.
We'll see.
And that is the number one thing that I try to tell young guys when they're coming in. I said, a calm voice will alleviate. You know, I've had in not to be funny, but sometimes females are the most aggressive out of them. Oh, they come up. Oh, you're not playing my song. I want to hear this song. I want to hear this song. I need this now. It's my birthday. My birthday, my friend's birthday. There's a certain, there's about 10 or 12 things that people say that makes you say, okay, you know what, this is going to be an issue or a potential problem. It's my birthday. It's my girl's night out. I'm leaving in 5 minutes. I need to hear it. You know all of the key phrases and keywords, and then there are times when I'll be like, okay, you know what, this is not in the set. Like if I'm at a soca set and somebody comes in and say, oh, I need to hear this, and they've come 5 times. Chuck, slip this in. Hey, this is for so and so. It's their birthday. I know we don't play it often, but here it is. It's a classic. Boom. 30 seconds of that gets rid of them. So you give them what they want, but you don't play the full 5 minutes of a Whitney Houston song at a soca event. But I have mixed Whitney Houston in. I'll take the instrumental and play the a cappella over a soca song, and I'm a superstar for the night. So you have to figure out ways to make people happy, but not stop what you're doing, which is contributing to the party.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Wow, some good thoughts there, Chuck. Again, you know, you've been in this industry a very, very long time, so of course you know and you understand how it works. And I think this is one of the dangers, really, of taking industries that had some degree of training, and you know, you moved up, you worked with senior DJs before you kind of could go out on your own, to all of a sudden now everybody's a DJ, everybody in their granny DJing, and you just throw people out there. We have people encroaching on the profession who are not even Caymanians. They come here, they're working without the requisite permissions in place. Because remember now, overseas or expat DJs are not supposed to come here without having a proper work permit in place. In order to get that work permit, they should be going through the CMEA, the Cayman Islands Music Association. A lot of that isn't happening.
And that's on the other side of the coin. I mean, I would love for you to donate a show to this, because there's a lot of money in my industry that is being tossed off to, okay, you know what? If you charge I know you're short on time, but here's an idea. The pay for my industry per hour hasn't changed in 10 or 15 years. But now that it has all of these younger people trying to figure out it's dropped. So before, now you could say, okay, you know what? I charge $50 or $100 for an hour to play music. The reason being is it's not just that I'm playing music. It's taken me 10 years to get this music in order, make sure it's right for you. I have to pick up speakers at the beginning. I have to bring a controller. I need to connect it. I got to have extension power. All of these things to make your party an event. But now someone comes in and say, okay, you know what? I'll come in and I'll do it for drinks for the night and $25. So they're willing to work for 4 hours for $25 and all the alcohol they can drink. What do you think they're going to do? They're going to drink till they are inebriated, and then they're cursing on the mic, and they're exciting, and they're going to be derogatory to some degree. There's going to be this, there's going to be some vulgarity, because they get all they can drink for the night. It's not the pay, it's about the party. So now your business is being put down to a level, or maybe they'll play music that only they like. It's just for them. So patrons walk in, they listen for 5 minutes, and they walk out. So this is why I tell people, I say, do the right thing. Talk to the Cayman, Entertainment and Music Association. Know who is reputable. Know who is in the mix. Know who is there, because that perpetuates your business. Because if I'm coming out of my house to play for you, I'm going to give you the best that I can. And that's 37 years of knowledge in an industry to make you have a great night and have your patrons coming back, versus somebody who is 6 months, a laptop, and knows a little bit. And I don't want to discourage people. I want that, but I want it on the right path. Go through the agency. No, do your homework. Know your crowd that you're playing for. You know, I can't expect it, and I'm just using him as an example. I can't expect to play Vibes Cartel for a 60-year-old person.
Exactly.
They may like it, but I can't do 2 hours of that and expect them to be happy about it. The same way how I can't do 2 hours of country music for a teenage party. You know, you have to know what you're doing and what you're getting into, but at the same time, you need to be competent about the decisions that you're making.
Wow. Very good. Some good, insightful information here for sure. We really appreciate it.
No problem, Sandy. My pleasure. Let me get back to listening to you, making sure you sound good. Have a good day, all right?
Thanks very much. I really, really appreciate that. So, folks, I mean, that's the kind of insight that you can't get from everybody. Chuck's, like you said, has been doing this for a very, very long time. Cameron says, I can bring my phone and 2 speakers and run a set. That's the problem. Everybody feels that way. So, well, what I can say, folks, is that, you know, all of these things can have a degree of interconnectivity. It makes sense what Chuck is saying. We have people who are less professional, less experienced. You know, all of these things are being added to the mix. And of course, you know, again, be mindful of the environment that they come from. Some people are just used to this dance hall environment where any and everything goes. You know, stabbing up someone at a dance hall event in Jamaica is not unheard of. It happens all the time. I mean, quite frankly. So again, if you have people with that mentality that you're now bringing in and allowing to operate in your jurisdiction, you could see how they might see absolutely nothing wrong with, you know, doing what they do. Miss Brenda says DJs seem to play for themselves, not for the listening audience. Cameron says experienced DJs know the business better than some of these established owners. And this is the other thing as well, as Chuck has rightfully said, you know, everyone is trying to bring down the price by throwing free stuff out there. What do you think you're going to get for nothing? Not the best caliber for sure. You pay for what you get. RD Limited says common sense, an elusive condition claimed to be held by many. Evidence suggests to the contrary. Yes. I think we read Sandra's comments already. TJ Cameron. Yes, DJ Cameron. Cameron says DJs is no longer a professional. It's a side job with an excuse to party. And that, unfortunately, is very, very sad. Moya makes the point about how, so true, it's very expensive to get a temporary green card as a spouse of an American. You have to pay thousands of dollars just for the application process, and you need a financial sponsor. If you commit an offense in the States, regardless of being married to a Canadian, it allows them to reject the green card and deport you, even if you have an American child. I do think it's time we start to do some serious immigration reform aimed at rooting out some of these absolutely undesirable people in our jurisdiction. Cameron says, thanks for the overtime, Chuck. I'll ask Sandy to send you a voucher. A voucher? A voucher for what? Child, don't be making promises you can't deliver on now. Anyway, folks, thank you all for your contributions today. I see a number of things coming in on the email feed. Of course, we do have the Royals here, and they're sending out some media stuff in relation to that today as well. We've covered quite a bit of court news this morning already. And so we will certainly be looking at what's on the Grand Court list for the upcoming week. Let's just have a quick perusal before we introduce the news and end the program, because I always want you guys to keep up to date on what is happening. Sometimes, child, I'll be missing things myself because you got to really keep on top of it. So this is the current cause list. Remember, these things are publicly available. This is no state secret. Any and all of you can get a copy of the cause list These are the justices that are up this week. We've got all of them. Chief Justice Margaret Ramsey Hale, who their marshals are. All this information is available. We've got a couple civil cases, one about mental health. That sounds interesting. Looks like these are some civil matters, striking out orders. We have some mentions from Her Majesty's Prison Service. So those mentions are normally resetting a date. So there's those different indictments. We have a murder case that is continuing. This is the young man who's being accused of shooting another young man in broad daylight there in Bodden Town. You guys will remember that. That murder case continues. We have Orville Anthony McPherson, attempted rape. In courtroom 5 before Justice Carter. He's on bail. We should check that one out. We've got Andrew Romeo Beckford, wounding with intent. This says that this case is to open to jury at the conclusion of the trial of indictment 33/22. So once the rape trial is finished, and his will start 5 days. So they sometimes need the same jury pool. So, that's kind of how that works. We've got a set aside order. Looks like that's civil division. So more civil cases. Somebody's being called to the bar. Annika Brown being admitted as an attorney. Is that the young lady who works over in insurance? Annika Evertina Brown. Not sure if that's her. Couple other civil matters, financial services division, family division. The murder case continues. So this is going into this week. We've got Wayne David Wright. He's doing an MFS for part heard. I don't know what that one's about. Sometimes you have to go look up these indictments. Wednesday is a public holiday. Then we've got more financial services matters, civil matters, people arguing over property, the Goldburns, administrator of the state. Oh, Lord, that's in chambers. So, of course, we can't really go into chambers. Those are private. We've got somebody trying to sue the Central Planning Authority. Lord Jesus. Fidelity Bank is suing Alan Dale Scott. Examination of JD. JD is judgment. Is it judgment debt or something? But anyway, that's when they're trying to see where your money is. Normally, those are people taking the bank, taking your house. Here's another one with Chad Bodden, Paulette Nordia Smith versus Cayman Airways. Why is she suing Cayman Airways? Paulette Nordia Smith is suing Cayman Airways. Now, this is a case that sounds interesting. I need to find out what this one's about. Don't y'all worry, honey child. We will get to the bottom of that one from 2021. Fidelity Bank and Samantha McLaughlin. Y'all don't fool with these banks, honey child, because they will take your house in a heartbeat if you're not paying the mortgage. There's another with Mary Rowena. I don't know. That might be family. I'm not quite sure what that is. Criminal. We've got Mark Anthony Manderson being concerned in an arrangement. This sounds like probably drugs. That's going to be a 6-week trial with Siobhan, Roden, Drew McNeil, and Ian Gale. That sounds like drugs. Murder case continues. Then we have case management hearings. Okay. Friday. Any sentences on Friday? Normally Friday is kind of like sentencing day. So we have some financial services, some Chinese company in court. A judge is writing a judgment. So sometimes they just spend time working and writing judgments. Delivery of judgment. This is a civil case, but the judgment will be delivered. Grand Harbor Properties Limited. Ooh, that might be interesting. More court-related stuff. Criminal division. And then we've got summary court appeals. Okay. Quite a few of those. And then defendant in custody at 12:30. This is a Zoom delivery of judgment reapplication for leave to apply out of time. Some guy named Joseph Bonzu Akoto is going to find out his fate with Justice Carter. So that's a delivery of a judgment. Attempted rape continues. Woman with intent. What a hot mess. As you can see, a busy day for the courts. And this is just grand court, y'all. This is not even the summary court list. And of course, the summary court list, is done day by day. All right, folks. Thank you, Miss Siobhan. 2 months today, lost my best friend and hubby, Miss Sue. Our continued condolences. So no Cameron. That's quite a long list this week for just Grand Court. All right, beautiful people. Please have a safe and wonderful day. And I will see you guys tomorrow, God's willing. Have a great day.
Hello, I'm Kevin Watler, and this is your CMR Daily Buzz. Here's a summary of some of Cayman's latest headlines. Elvis McKeever from Cayman Brac, who was charged after threatening public officials in a social media post, was freed on 2 charges Thursday after the Grand Court granted a stay of proceedings based on abuse of process in relation to jury selection. A teenager on his bike was struck by a vehicle in Cayman Brac. This occurred on Alfred Scott Drive in West End. It is understood that the teen received fractures and a concussion. Their Royal Highnesses the Earl and Countess of Wessex are set to arrive today for an official visit. They'll be met on arrival by His Excellency the Governor Martin Roper and the Honourable Premier Wayne Panton, and will receive a royal salute, inspect the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service, and meet key government officials. This is the 5th time His Royal Highness has visited our shores, and the 2nd time he is accompanied by Her Royal Highness the Countess of Wessex. Now for your CMR weather update, it's brought to you by WG Charters. Sunrise at 6:51, sun and a few passing clouds, when the temperature is at 83 degrees Fahrenheit and the humidity at 69% like the forecast calls for. It will feel like it's in the high 80s. Winds east-northeast at 10 to 20 miles per hour, and the sun sets at 6:27. At nighttime, the temperature falls to the mid-70s. Looking forward, lots of sunshine throughout this week. If you would like to know more on any of these stories, visit CaymanMallRoad.com or follow Cayman Mall Road on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. That's it for now on the Daily Buzz. Thank you for joining me. Please stay safe and God bless.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Cold Hard Truth on Bobo 89.1 FM. Cayman's #1 talk show is live weekdays from 7:30 a.m. Never miss an episode again. Watch anytime on CMR's Facebook and YouTube channels for the latest show episodes. Don't forget to follow us online on our social media channels. And visit CaymanMarlRoad.com for all the latest news and community happenings.